Hi guys, we'll just be starting soon. तब तक के लिए do tweet about the space and share about the space. So more and more people can join in. And hi, welcome friends. We're talking after forever. What's up?
Hey Sejal, hi. How are you? Good to connect. Long time.
Like space को start कर रहे हैं and hopefully ये बहुत अच्छा learning experience हो. Again, disclaimer, जो भी space में discuss होता है learning के लिए है. अगर आपको स्टॉक्स में इन्वेस्ट करना है, एडवाइजरी चाहिए, तो सेबी रजिस्टर्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजर्स हैं जो आपके पोर्टफोलियो और रिस्क प्रोफाइल के हिसाब से आपको बता सकते हैं कहाँ पे अपना पैसा निवेश करें. मेरे जितने भी गेस्ट हैं वो यहाँ पे स्टॉक रिकमेंडेशन नहीं देंगे. वो यहाँ पे सिर्फ साइक्लिक इन्वेस्टिंग के बारे में बात करेंगे और मार्केट कंडीशंस के बारे में बात करेंगे. So hi Safir, how have you been? What's going on with you?
Hi, good evening. I've been well. I hope everybody else is well too. And lots of travel and work is going on. That's predominantly what I've been doing.
Right. That is great, Safir. So Safir, currently you're in which city?
I'm in Delhi, but I'll be traveling just in a day or odd.
Oh, then you are actually traveling a lot.
Correct.
Nice,
Yeah.
सही है. So we'll
Correct.
just be starting in the next 5 minutes. I'm
Of-
just waiting for the audience to settle,
Oh,
right? Dr. Tanmay is also joining us. We have Dr. Velumani as well, right?
lovely.
So we'll quickly say hi to Dr. Velumani because Tanmay is there with us. We also have Prince here with us as my co-host. And we hope that we create a nice learning environment for everyone. Again, disclaimer, spaces में जो भी discuss होता है, it is for learning purposes. Nothing over here is advisory. Advisory चाहिए तो SEBI registered investment advisor के पास जाइए. नहीं, welcome Dr. Tanmay, कैसे हो आप?
Hi Sejal, am I audible? I'm all good. Space after a long time. Good to see कि हम finally ये space कर पा रहे हैं. Thanks to you for pushing me again for this. And looking forward to learn something new. Happy to see Prince along as a co-host. Safir sir, hi. I hope you're doing good.
Very well. Thank you so much. How are you?
All good, sir. All good.
I found a joke for you before we started the space.
Yeah, please go for it.
You are at work and you are heading home and you get to know that they have cooked something that you don't like. So you have bail. What is that bail called?
What do you call it?
Anticipatory bail.
Good one.
Good one. ये so people who had tuned in पहले जब साफिर सर के साथ एक दो spaces हमने की हैं, so we do this PJs and थोड़ा good humor around our talks so that it's fun. It's not just a very serious discussion. Velumani sir, how are you, sir?
जैसा
Good to see you as well after a long time.
जैसा था वैसा ही हूँ.
Always love your punches.
Yeah, as such, I am cool, and in Bengaluru it's very cold.
वो दिल्ली वाले सर ऑफेंड हो जाएंगे बेंगलुरु कोल्ड बोलेंगे तो.
देखो, बेंगलुरु पूरा 365 days cool है. Not 365 days,
Yes.
300 days. So, मैं अभी
Yes.
नॉर्थ में आऊँ, मेरा कैपेबिलिटी नहीं है इतना वो टेम्परेचर मैनेज करने के लिए. Good.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it's cool. Go ahead.
Hi,
Yeah.
hi, Safir sir.
But good to get back and in a scenario wherein markets have corrected a bit, around 9 to 10% correction is there, and retail investor is kind of stuck. थोड़ा सा. This is where the opinion of experts help us to navigate as to what their mindset is, how they are thinking around this, and how to build our own strategy based on what the experts tell us, and then how we can navigate around this course so that we can maximize our gains and find some opportunities around. So looking forward to the session today. Over to you, Sejal.
Absolutely, Tanmay. I think Prince wanted to say something or Neeraj
Yeah,
wanted to say something. Go ahead,
yeah,
Prince. पहले आप.
Yeah, please.
yeah. Just wanted to say hi to Safir sir, and I look forward to that. He would be speaking next Friday, if I remember right, 6th of December at London Stock Exchange. So definitely we look forward to that, and congratulations for that, sir. And
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
just want to say hi to Velumani sir, Neeraj Shah sir, and Neeraj Bajpai sir.
Hey guys, thanks for having us.
Hi, have a great time and day.
Right. So, welcome to both the Neerajes. Firstly, we'll go to Neeraj Bajpai and then Neeraj Shah. So, hi Neeraj, कैसे हैं आप? How is your Saturday night going?
बहुत बढ़िया. थैंक यू सो मच फॉर इनवाइटिंग. एंड डॉक्टर वेलू को देख कर तो बहुत ही मजा आया. इनके पंचेस बहुत अच्छे होते हैं और बहुत
देखो
दिन बाद में किसी
देखो देखो मैं मूवी हीरोइन नहीं है देख के मजा आने के लिए, मुझे सुन के मजा आनी चाहिए, वही मेरा इच्छा है.
सर आपकी बातों से जो इमेज बनती है उसको मैं देख भी सकता हूँ. कैन इमेज विजुलाइज कर सकता हूँ.
गुड, थैंक यू वेरी मच.
या सो अच्छा लगा बातचीत करके. और इस समय मैं फुल छुट्टी में हूँ तो सैटरडे संडे मंडे सारी नाइट्स हमारे लिए बहुत अच्छी जा रही है. आप लोगों को नहीं पता हो तो मैं बता दूं कि मैंने सीमिसी आवाज को छोड़ दिया है अभी. और अभी मैं कूल ऑफ पीरियड में हूँ. तो आफ्टर दिसंबर आई विल डू समथिंग.
So
सो
look
Right.
आ
forward to your next.
सो आवाज छोड़ दिया लेकिन नया आवाज तो है ही.
बिल्कुल सर, बिल्कुल.
तो ऐसा एक लता मंगेशकर की गाना था, मेरी आवाज ही मेरी पहचान है.
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू.
Right. All the best for your new career endeavors, Neeraj, and I look forward to hearing much more good news about your work endeavors.
या श्योर श्योर.
So, I'll quickly
थैंक यू.
go say hi to Neeraj Shah as well. Hi Neeraj, welcome to our space. How have you been?
Thank you, Sejal. All good. I mean, the markets keep everybody busy, and therefore, it's all been very, very good. It's also a very good, very frantic wedding season in India. So it's been great last couple of weeks, and look forward to many more good weeks, upcoming ones.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Neeraj. So now I think we can start with the space. I will request all my speakers कि हम mute कर लेते हैं क्योंकि थोड़ा सा echo आ रहा है. नीरज बाजपाई आपके यहाँ से echo आ रहा है. मैं आपको request करूंगी please mute कर लीजिए. Thank you. So now let's start with basics, right? Like अब मेरे audience के अंदर there'll be pro investors and noob investors, basically नए नवेले investors and experienced investors. बहुत से लोगों को ये सवाल रहता है साइक्लिकल इन्वेस्टिंग क्या है, कोई नए तरीके की इन्वेस्टिंग है क्या, या कुछ what is it about? So शुरू से let's start from the basics. So what exactly is a market cycle and how is it different from a broader economic cycle? Let's start with this question from Safir and then let's go to Neeraj Shah. Yeah. Hi Safir, can you start explaining this please?
Yeah, I'll explain it, but I must also confess the fact that I am not a person who plays cyclical part of the market. So hopefully, because the thing is that you can get a few things right, but it's not so easy to assess cycles until and unless you are very data centric around the respective industry. For example, if you're playing metals, or if you're playing oil, it is not so easy as opposed to investing in companies, because the change is not coming from within the company. It is coming from actually factors outside the company, and the company is playing to the path of those changes. So cyclical investing, in that sense, becomes much more complex than what is called as simple investing. And while you may do very well in it, and there are people who are masters at that game, it's not necessary that everybody has that capability. I definitely don't. I do end up getting a few cyclical calls right, but sometimes I also get them wrong when they turn around. So that's part and parcel of it. And therefore, I never maintain a cyclical portfolio per se. I hope to at least have some companies where I can hold for at least a few years without having to disturb myself with what is happening in terms of factors beyond the company's control.
Right, absolutely, Safir. So would you want to share something around cyclical investing? Otherwise, we can go to the next
I
speaker.
can, but
Huh,
like a lawyer interprets everything according to what he
right.
understands or what he thinks, I interpret cyclical in a very different sense from what is truly the definition of cyclical. And I'll explain and I'll share some experiences briefly so that I allow others to speak. For me, cyclical can also be an opportunity that is created by a market malfunctioning, and that market malfunctioning may happen because of certain interpretation of news. So, for example, uh, I think just about a week or 10 days back, I had tweeted that I am looking at buying certain companies to get a 10% return for the month. And 10% return for the month is a huge return if it was to be annualized. The only difficulty is that it is not necessary that you will get an annualized return. And if you are able to make 10% return in a portfolio in 30 days because of whatever opportunity that you see around something that may be mispriced or a part of malfunctioning, I personally call it cyclical. One of the clear examples that personally participated in it, and I'm not suggesting that others should do it because, as Sejal told you, that this is all subject to risk and you must go to registered advisors. On the day of the 30% odd down circuits in Adani, I perhaps bought the whole sector, all of the Adani companies. And that's just one example. And of that, in two particular cases which were relating to port and to cement, I actually didn't even understand why they fell because it doesn't matter who runs them. They're monopolies and they will function as monopolies. In cement, there's actually consolidation happening all across. You've seen it in the case of Ultratech, and therefore there is no reason why ACC would not be positioned in a similar way. Now, if you end up getting from that level a 30% bump up in 7 days, it's up to you whether you want to run the cyclical profit and be out of it, or you believe that the stories will sustain, which is your own interpretation. And in order to arrive at this, I used my legal acumen to find out what is the basis of acquisitions in US law and what is based as proven versus an allegation, and whether it is proven at an individual level or a liability at a company level, and what are the ramifications of a settlement. Now, these are complex things for others because there are all legal jargons in America as a master at settlements. But if you look at the point that in basic terms, American law has a distinction between settlement for individuals versus settlement for corporates. So if the demand was $250 million, assuming everything was to go wrong, the settlement would arrive at an amount lesser than that or somewhere around that, which was not so difficult to anticipate in terms of the loss of market cap. And again, like I said, I played on two themes, which is the port theme and the cement theme, because I found it relatively more easy than to arrive at some energy company and to interpret what is going to happen with China on one side and Trump on the other side and all. These are all examples of cyclical. The same example I would like to also share. Another example, again, this is not a recommendation, is that there is a listed company that went through turmoil during the Congress time because one of the parties on the other side was a sitting finance minister, and that company went into doldrums. And then all of a sudden they made announcements in respect of several new projects, and they started sorting their problem. They were known anyways to be pioneers in respect of all the work that they had done. At least about 8 of their works were of the highest credibility, including things like NSC, setting up NSC and MCX, etc., and also having worked for setting up the entire backbone of ICICI Bank. Now, I found that the market had rubbed it too much and the political situation had changed and they were not in the bad eyes of the current government. As a matter of luck, and I'm again emphasizing as a matter of luck, the stock has delivered 100% return in 2 months or 3 months as opposed to what you call as a market correction. So the question is, what do you call cyclical? And if you go back into the tweets, I think in the I thought maybe 2 years back, Mr. Vijay Kedia and I had a very interesting discussion on Twitter, one-sided, and we were both on one side that we could not believe that Hindalco had fallen at that point of time to some 300 odd levels. Both of us actually felt that it was a great opportunity, and that's very unlike him because he's not a cyclical investor and therefore unlike me, and we just sort of rode that path. I don't own it on date, but I'm just giving an example. So cyclical is sometimes just finding a misplaced opportunity, which I call as market malfunction. If you have that capability, there are other people who are extremely competent in understanding things from pharma to chemical cycles to all the things that you can imagine of. And sometimes you have to read their wisdom. And even if you're not a believer, to sort of keep reading because you may not be a believer today, but they may share data points that may make you change your opinion, and then you start building your conviction and if whatever little you can borrow from their learnings. But definitely I'm not a master or a professional when it comes to cyclical, but you can get things right.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing this diverse perspective, Safir, from a lawyer's perspective. Now, I'll quickly go to Neeraj Shah. So, Neeraj, would you like to add something from the traditional cyclical investing perspective, and how is it different from a market cycle, and if how could we explain it to beginners?
Sejal, I'll try. So, I mean, as they say, right, that some people say in God we trust, everybody else must bring data. And we say that even God must bring data, right? So I'm bringing some data to the fore. Like, if you think of, there's a very interesting newsletter that Old Bridge Capital, which is Kenneth Andrade's firm, has written just today, right? And they are talking about, and they bring data. So they are showing how, for example, pockets in energy and infrastructure in December 2003 to 2007 had a fabulous move, a compounded annual growth rate of 75%, 45%, 66%, etc. And then from 2008 till 2013, some of them delivered nearly 3-4% returns at best. And they didn't participate, but maybe companies in consumers or exporting pharma companies participated. Now that's an example of a classic cycle. If for the recency bias, Sejal, agar aap dekhein, so chemicals started in 2013-14 when did really well for 6-7 years. And people who identified that maybe this was a top of the cycle in chemicals because China was now increasing the capacities or the capacities that come on stream. Chemical prices were reaching a peak, especially not the specialty chemicals, but commodity chemicals. So maybe those stocks had hit the top. So some people who understood that very well took money off the table. For 3 years, a lot of those stocks have gone nowhere. The companies are really good, but the stocks are not participating. So typically, I mean, as I learned from everybody who's done this very, very proficiently, that they identify cycles within sectors which are more prone to having a cyclical move, right? There are companies which will move up and down, or profits or revenues will move up and down on the back of what's happening to the underlying product. And that underlying product has a business cycle to itself. And if you can, it is very difficult. I agree, concur with Safir completely. It's very, very difficult to do that. I mean, people like Dr. Velumani or I see Sajal Kapoor out here in the listeners list, maybe Jiten Parmar as well. All of those guys can maybe identify cycles. It's a very difficult art to master, but if you can do that, then you can really reap gains. I'll just make one last point here. It's very good to maybe hold good companies for 10-15 years. In the end, you'll make money. But if you really want to expand, and some cyclical investors do that, that you might have held a chemical company for 6 years. If you identified the cycle right, you got off at 2020, 2021, not necessarily at the top, but you got off, parked the money in some other companies, have ridden that for 2-3 years, have made money there. And now if you believe that the cycle in chemicals and pharma is turning, then you again reinvest in those, then your gains go up quite a bit. So that's what some cyclical investors do really well. But it's a very difficult art. A lot of them get it wrong as well. So that's, to my mind, the definition of cyclical investing. But is it easy to do? No, answer is a full blown no.
Right. Thank you so much for that view, Neeraj. So we also have Sajal Kapoor with us. Hi, Sajal. Am I audible to you?
Yeah, hi Sejal. I can hear you loud and clear. Am I?
Yes. So, Sajal, firstly, welcome to the space. And we usually, say hi to all our speakers. So, where are you currently? Which country are you in? And also, what's going on?
So I'm in a dull, gloomy, cold country called UK, and somewhere in the rural, away from London. So yeah, it's that kind of a period. December, January, February is beautiful out here. If you know, so that's where I'm based. And good to be here. Just listen to the great wisdoms. I know Safir Bhai very well, and I track him, I follow him, almost like a cult, if I'm completely honest. I follow Neeraj and several others. I see Jiten Bhai is also here. So yeah, I mean that's that's what that's what I am, and just to add my 2 cents. So I completely agree with what Safir and Neeraj said. So just to add, I mean, there are 3 cycles. We all know there is an economic cycle, there's a market cycle, and then there is a business cycle. Of all these 3, the most important is the business cycle, um, and not the market cycle or the economic cycle. Yes, if the business cycle and the market cycle, they kind of coincide, then it's a kind of a lollapalooza. But it's the business cycle that is got the 80% weight when it comes to investing across all time frames, short, medium, and long. And I think in any investing, be it cyclical or more sort of a longer term, you can call it you're renting a stock versus owning a stock. So if you are margin of safety again in investing is very important. There are only three things. So in my framework, I use a triangle, which is the net margin of safety, and it's kind of three things really. So margin of safety is in business, what kind of business, what kind of industry structure, tailwinds, etc. Then there is margin of safety in the management, the people behind that business, right? And then there is margin of safety in the valuation. Now, if you are, depending upon what your investing time frame is, if you are investing for less than a year, and majority of us, we are in that camp, and sometimes it's just the nature of the business. You cannot take a longer horizon. So long story short, if your horizon is less than a year, of these three elements in net margin of safety, the management, the business, and the valuation, the most important is the valuation. I generally don't care who is running the business, because I'm going to rent that stock for maybe few months, not even a year. As long as I understand the business cycle, and I understand the valuation. So the only two things that are important for me for that kind of a decision is how cheap it is today, is the business turning around, and is my downside capped or limited. That's it. I don't care who's running a show, as long as it's not a crook, because that's a bit risky. But all said and done, given the regulations in the country at the moment, so valuation is very important, business cycle is very important, and then I'm less interested in the terminal value or those kind of things, which is much more important in structural investing. So my entry is important, but my exit is more important than my entry, because in a cyclical that is lying low. So Sudarshan Chemical as an example, again, no recommendation. It was there for years or months. You could have bought it at any point in time. But the exit window, not just for Sudarshan, I'm just talking in general, the exit window will be very small. So you buy slowly, and you sell rapidly. That's what you need to do. Again, it's a judgment call. None of us are perfect. We all get trapped. But as long as you could avoid how do you win? You win by not losing, right? So as long as you avoid that halo, don't assume that, a cyclical at the peak of its performance is a Nestle. Never happens that way. So as long as you are aware of all that, you'd be fine. That's all. That's all.
Right. Sajal, I do have a follow-up question for you around this is only like, you've been a proponent of deep value investing. So, how can we relate it to investing in cyclicals, and also any cautions that an investor must take while cyclical investing?
Yeah, like, so the only caution is, how can I lose money? First question
Right.
you should be asking is, how can I lose money? What are those factors where I can lose money? And as long as you are aware of those factors, because ultimately you win by not losing, right? So as long as you know how can you lose money, what are those? So as I said, this management, business, and valuation. That's it. In cyclical investing, the business cycle and the valuations, those are the only two factors that are important. 90% weight, if not 100%. And as long as you know that the business cycle, where is that business in the cycle? So typically it will be single digit ROCE or a loss making P&L. And not just for last quarter, but for at least 4, 6, possibly 8 quarters. Maybe 4 or 5 years that whole industry has been suffering, and you would find one or two leaders that are barely surviving on the P&L side. But then you have to look at the balance sheet and the cash flows. So three examples. There's chemical as a pocket, and many stocks have been performed. And there is textile. Even within consumption, there are certain pockets where the performance hasn't been great. So typically, that should be your happy hunting ground to figure out the best possible opportunity to play over the next few months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. Again, it depends on how the cycle plays out and the valuations, etc. People generally lose money when they start entering a cyclical at 10 times price to book, 5 times price to book, where the 15-year average book is typically 1. So try and buy below the 15-year mean valuation, be it price to book, be it price to sales, EV, EBITDA, you name it. And single digit ROCE is best, and 2%, 3%, single digit, up to 10% maybe. Again, 10% means that in a full blown cycle, that ROCE can be as high as 30-40%. But if the peak ROCE for that industry is about 15-20%, then you should be looking for a negative ROCE, loss making, loss to profit, a terrible business becoming bad. That's a 5 bagger. I repeat, a terrible business becoming a bad business is a 5 bagger. A terrible business becoming a good one is probably a 10-20 bagger. So that's how I would approach it.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing those views, Sajal. Now I will pass on the baton to the other host. That is Dr. Tanmay. Tanmay, go ahead and ask questions to the other guests, please.
Yeah. And I think one important point from Sajal sir's what remarks he made was, I think as a common investor, it is very important for us, whenever we are in an upcycle, we need to control our FOMO and not land up in spaces which are already discounted to big times, and you just end up losing your money because of that, and you feel that there are stocks wherein people have made multi-bagger returns, and you make a multi-bagger return. This is probably what I can summarize it as. We have Velumani sir also with us, so would just want to know with him if you want to add to the ongoing discussion, and how do you see the diagnostic space right now? Entire pharma has had a good run in the last few years, especially CDMOs are having all the stocks are having good results, and everything is good. How do you see this space right now, sir? And you want to add to the discussion that's already going on? Yeah.
Thank you very much. It is not that easy for me to talk in the languages which all of you are talking, because mm, I was a farmer, then I became a scientist, then I became an entrepreneur, then I listed the company, then I exited the company, and I am an investor. So that's the phases which I have gone through. Having said that, if somebody was intelligent or he worked on instinct, there are only two ways. Either you can depend on intelligence or you can work on instincts. July 2021, I exit. July 2020, my share price was around 500 rupees a share, and July 2021, it goes to 1400. And I felt at that point of time not looking at what happens in the industry, what happens in the company, first company, then industry, then the country, then the global. There are very, very different cycles playing, and all of them contribute ultimately for the investors. So somewhere my mind said it is all-time high. It may not go anything more than that, and I exited. Now, 12 months after my exiting, it comes back to the same rate before exit 12 months back. So I can be given as the greatest guy, Sejal said, goat. So that's only for me to truly see how I sensed cyclical. But having said that, I don't think anybody can truly understand cyclical. And if at all people can understand it correctly, they will be the richest in the world. I think I always advise in a layman language, suno sabki, karo apni. Otherwise you are getting misguided, misled. I think keep 80% of your money in some standard investments. Keep a 20% cash in a format in which you can look at the market. Today, 85,000 Sensex is around 79. It went even up to 76 or 7. around 5% to 7% when it is down, you invest. You are safer. But having said that, if your goals are end of the quarter or end of the year, my advice may not be right. But if you are the one who is willing to wait and cash in a long run, I think that's the best thing to do. I came in reluctantly for this space. मुझे क्या पता है इसमें मैं जाके बात करूं. But then I believe learning is the best thing, and listen, and then I've come to listen. That's my general aspect of this cyclical investing in the stock markets. Looking at diagnostics, I think what market cap share price was there in July 2021 is least likely to come back to the same position even before June 2026 or 7. My mind is not agreeing, but it was somewhere between 6 and 7. That was the too high multiple, and the multiples were for the top line. And now the industry is reworking, and I look at my all peers, it is on the profitability. I think that's the stage where otherwise all of you know loss making companies have too big a market cap, whereas the standard companies don't have. But in that logic, today the diagnostic industry's market cap and share price, I believe, as the previous speaker said, worst becoming bad is a opportunity. Worst becoming good is an opportunity. And worst again becoming the best is the biggest opportunity. I don't think anybody can totally sit with some Excel sheet or sit with some data and conclude that. It has a lot of parameters. I run a listed company also for 7 years. So it's not that easy, but then, easy, you don't have to get into space and listen and learn. I think this is what we all are here to understand. As a man who was an entrepreneur and I am an investor, I can only tell a punchline, क्योंकि सास भी एक दिन बहू थी. To that extent, investors and entrepreneurs all are figuring out, and I am open to learning. Thank you for giving me an opportunity.
Thank you, Velumani sir. I'll pass it on to Prince. Yeah.
Thank you, Tanmay. Thank you, Velu sir. So my next question is for both the Neeraj sirs being in the same line. So Neeraj Bajpai sir, सबसे पहले मैं आपसे पूछूंगा, then I come to Neeraj sir for the same questions. So how difficult or how easy it is for you to keep abreast of what's happening in the market, because every time you come up on TV and presenter, you have to be there with all the latest news and developments. And secondly, whenever you guys interview people, at that point in time, the quality of questions is what define the answers coming from the people, right? So how easy or how difficult that is for you guys to maintain that?
जर्नलिज्म में कहा जाता है कि व्हाट यू आस्क यू गेट द आंसर. तो जो सवाल आप पूछेंगे जवाब वही मिलेगा. सो ये बहुत डिफिकल्ट भी नहीं होता. आपको पता होना चाहिए कि आप किसके लिए काम कर रहे हैं. अगर आप अपने ऑडियंस के लिए काम कर रहे हैं, इन्वेस्टर के लिए कर रहे हैं, तो आप उसके बेनिफिट के क्वेश्चंस पूछेंगे तो आपको वैसे ही जवाब मिलेंगे. आप बहुत इंटेलेक्चुअल क्वेश्चन पूछने लगेंगे कि आप ऐसी चीज डिस्कस कर रहे हैं जिसका कोई मतलब नहीं है, तो शायद वैसे ही जवाब मिलेगा जो किसी इन्वेस्टर के काम का नहीं होगा. तो एज ए जर्नलिस्ट हम लोगों को ध्यान रखना पड़ता है कि वो सवाल पूछे जाए जो एक्शनेबल हो और जिनका कोई सेंस हो. तो ये बहुत मुश्किल नहीं है, हम लोग रोज करते हैं तो इतना समझ में आ जाता है. बस केवल आपको ये याद रखना है कि आप क्यों पूछ रहे हैं सवाल, क्योंकि आप किसी दूसरे के लिए पूछ रहे हैं, अपने लिए नहीं पूछ रहे हैं. तो ये है. तो मुझे लगता है कि ये बहुत मुश्किल नहीं है. जो सिक्लिकलिटी की बात चल रही है, इसमें मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि एवरी बिजनेस इज सिक्लिकल. वो बैंकिंग सेक्टर हो, फार्मा हो, ऑटो हो, केमिकल हो, एनी सेक्टर, वो सिक्लिकल होता है. तो जो भी सजल जी ने कहा बहुत सही बात है कि ट्रायंगल बनता है उसमें कि इकोनॉमिक साइकिल का, बिजनेस साइकिल का और मार्केट कैसे उसको ट्रीट करा. मेरे हिसाब से बिजनेस साइकिल इन तीनों को रिप्रेजेंट करता है, क्योंकि हर कंपनी स्पेसिफिक भी एक बिजनेस साइकिल होता है और एक सेक्टोरल होता है. आपको बहुत अच्छा लगेगा। 2 एग्जांपल बताता हूं मैं आपको। एक बैंकिंग सेक्टर देखिए और एक पावर सेक्टर देखिए। आप पिछले 10-15 साल याद करिए, क्या इस देश में पावर की डिमांड नहीं है? है डिमांड, बहुत डिमांड है। हर आदमी को बिजली चाहिए, क्वालिटी पावर चाहिए। बट लास्ट अभी पिछले 4-5 साल छोड़ दें तो उससे पहले 10 साल तक पावर सेक्टर का अंडर परफॉर्मेंस था। वैसे ही बैंकिंग सेक्टर में 10-10 साल के साइकिल्स आते हैं। वो 10 साल तक बहुत अच्छे करते हैं, उसके बाद वो नेक्स्ट 5-7-8 ईयर्स बहुत बुरे जाते हैं। आप पिछले 25 साल का 40 साल का उठा के देखिए। अब इसका मतलब क्या है? इसका मतलब ये है कि बिजनेस साइकिल इज नथिंग बट अ डिमांड सप्लाई। अगर डिमांड बहुत ज्यादा है, सप्लाई कम है, तो बिजनेस साइकिल आप मूव में होगा। अगर डिमांड कम हो रही है और बिजनेस नहीं है उतना, तो फिर आपको दूसरी तरह की प्रॉब्लम आएंगी। अब इसमें एक चीज और समझिए आप, जब मैं एग्जांपल दे रहा हूं आपको पावर सेक्टर का, आप याद करिए कितना निवेश हुआ था, इतना इन्वेस्टमेंट आया था। हर आदमी को पावर सेक्टर में काम करना था, सबको पावर प्लांट लगाने थे। किसी को ये नहीं मालूम था कोयला कहां से आएगा, लेकिन पावर प्लांट लगाने थे। तो इतना ज्यादा कैपेक्स हो गया था पावर में कि वो अगले 10 साल तक अंडर परफॉर्मर थे। डिमांड थी, तो एक तो गलत डिसीजन लिया उन्होंने। तो इसलिए बिजनेस साइकिल समझना बहुत जरूरी है। जब मैं डिमांड की बात कर रहा हूं तो मैं ये कह रहा हूं कि आज भी इस कंट्री में पावर की बहुत डिमांड है। हर आदमी को चाहिए, डेटा सेंटर लग रहे हैं, बहुत ज्यादा पावर की जरूरत है। लेकिन क्या 7-8% से ज्यादा CAGR आएगा पावर का? शायद नहीं आएगा। इसलिए नहीं आएगा क्योंकि जिसको पावर यूज करना, जो कंज्यूमर है पावर का, इज नॉट रेडी टू पे। तो जो डिमांड है वो इस बात पे भी डिपेंड करती है कि डिमांड तो है, बट बायर है क्या? 20 लाख की गाड़ी खरीदने वाले बॉटम ऑफ पिरामिड में है या टॉप में है? तो डिमांड को एनालाइज करना बहुत जरूरी है अगर आप बिजनेस साइकिल समझना चाहते हैं। डिमांड एंड सप्लाई को अगर आप सही से समझ लें तो आप बिजनेस साइकिल पकड़ लेंगे। और हर इंडस्ट्री सिक्लिकल है, कोई इंडस्ट्री ऐसी नहीं जो सिक्लिकल ना हो। किसी का साइकिल 5 साल का है, किसी का 10 साल का है। आप उस साइकिल के किस जंक्चर पे जाके इन्वेस्टमेंट अपना कर रहे हैं, ये सबसे टफ क्वेश्चन है। तो इसमें कोई प्रॉफिट नहीं जो कहते कि मुझे साइकिल का वो पॉइंट पता है कि ये कहाँ पे है। ये आप नियर बाय जा सकते हैं, डेटा देख सकते हैं आप। सो मैं पॉइंट ये कहना चाह रहा हूं कि सिक्लिकल इन्वेस्टिंग इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। आपकी एंट्री गलत अगर हो गई तो कंपनी बहुत अच्छा परफॉर्म करेगी, बट उसके ना पी एक्सपेंशन होगा, ना मल्टीपल्स बढ़ते हुए दिखेंगे, ना प्राइस बढ़ता हुआ दिखेगा। HDFC में देखिए ना कितना पैसा बना पिछले 10 साल में लोगों का। मारुति में कितना पैसा बना लोगों को 10 साल में। कंपनी अच्छी है, अर्निंग्स अच्छी है, बजाज फाइनेंस की अर्निंग बहुत अच्छी आ रही है। सो एट सम पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम अगर वो बिजनेस पीक कर रहा है या उस बिजनेस में आपको ऐसा लग रहा है कि शायद उतनी डिमांड को नहीं कैटर कर पा रहा है, या वो डिमांड इसलिए नहीं आ रही क्योंकि बायर नहीं है वहां पे, तो आपको ये ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा। सिर्फ इसलिए कि मैंने कहा ना कि इंडिविजुअल कंपनी का एक बिजनेस साइकिल होगा और एक सेक्टर का होगा। हो सकता है कोई किसी एक सेक्टर की एक कंपनी बहुत बुरा परफॉर्म करी जबकि वो सेक्टर बहुत अच्छा चल रहा है। शायद उसमें मैनेजमेंट डिसीजन गलत ले रहा हो या उसने कुछ गलत चीजें करी हो। तो इसलिए दोनों चीजें आपको देखनी पड़ेंगी, तभी आपको पता लगेगा कि मार्केट किसको रिवार्ड कर रहा है। जैसे आज मैं किसी स्टॉक का नाम नहीं लूंगा, सोलर सेक्टर इज वेरी फैंसी, एवरीबडी इज बिहाइंड सोलर। या सोलर पावर दुनिया भर में लग जाएगा, ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा। सारे स्टॉक्स के वैल्यूएशंस देखिए आप, जस्टिफाइबल नहीं है। तो अब ये बिजनेस साइकिल में कहां फिट हो रहा है, ये आपको स्टडी करना है कि क्या सोलर पावर की इंडस्ट्री इतनी तेज ग्रो करेगी, इतनी डिमांड है पावर की और उसके लोग पे कर पा रहे हैं, क्या ये सिर्फ सब्सिडी के लिए चल रही है और हमें 200 को 150 का मल्टीपल देना चाहिए। यहाँ पे आपको बिजनेस साइकिल समझना बहुत जरूरी होता है कि आप बिजनेस साइकिल के किस स्पेस में। इसी का एक कॉन्ट्रा एग्जाम्पल भी आपको मैं देता हूँ। डिक्सन टेक्नोलॉजीज, जब से उसकी लिस्टिंग हुई तब से वो बहुत रिचली वैल्यूड रहा, क्योंकि उस सेक्टर में बहुत डिमांड थी, बहुत बायर थे और बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटीज अनलिमिटेड थी। इसलिए वो चलता चलता यहां तक आया और बहुत ही हाई वैल्यूएशन पे गया। केस टेक्नोलॉजी 200 के मल्टीपल में ट्रेड कर रहा है। तो मैं नहीं कह रहा हूं कि कोई बाई सेल रिकमेंडेशन है, लेकिन सेक्टोरली क्या वो सेक्टर उस डिमांड के लिए रेडी है और उसके डिमांड के अगेंस्ट में बायर रेडी है। अगर आप ये समझ सकते हैं तो साइकिल समझेंगे। अब जैसे वेलू सर ने बहुत अच्छा एग्जाम्पल दिया कि उन्होंने उस समय बिजनेस छोड़ा और 12 महीने बाद उनको प्राइस नहीं पे मिला। मैं आप विदाउट नेमिंग सबको, नीरज शाह को, साफिर भाई को, सबको याद होगा, एक सीमेंट सेक्टर के बड़े वेटरन थे। उन्होंने उस समय एग्जिट ले लिया था जब सीमेंट सेक्टर पीक पे था। उसके बाद 10 साल तक सीमेंट सेक्टर में अंडर परफॉर्मेंस थी। फार्मा सेक्टर के बहुत बड़े जायंट ने एग्जिट किया, बिजनेस बेच के बाहर निकल गए। 10 साल तक फार्मा सेक्टर नहीं चला उसके बाद। तो मुझे नहीं पता कि वो लोग इतने कैसे, उन्होंने क्या डिसीजन लिया हुआ, लेकिन एक पॉइंट आता है जब आपको लगता है कि शायद ये वैल्यूएशन पीक हो रहे हैं, यहाँ पे बने रहने पे कंपनी अच्छा करेगी, अर्निंग अच्छी आएगी और आपका स्टॉक नहीं चलेगा। तो आपको फ्रस्ट्रेशन होगा कि यार मैं सब कुछ अच्छा है फिर भी क्यों नहीं चल रहा। तो जो गुड टू ग्रेट की जर्नी है ना, ग्रेट पे कहीं ना कहीं आपको एग्जिट लेना होता है। तो जो भी चल रहा है कि एग्जिट कहाँ लेना है ना, सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट ये होता है। मुझे लगता है सिक्लिकल इन्वेस्टिंग वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एंड एवरी सेक्टर इज सिक्लिकल। थैंक यू।
Thank you, sir. And Neeraj Shah, sir, this question is also for you. And additionally, I want to know, since you represent, with your, I mean, you have a great audience, and I would say people look forward to listening to your interviews. So, in that case, do you ever feel a kind of pressure that whatever you are saying and whatever your interpretation of current market or maybe any businesses or anything you discuss over the interviews make you nervous at times that the interpretation could not go wrong in the sense that the audience might not interpret in a wrong way or take a otherwise decision in such cases?
Is it for me?
Neeraj Shah, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir, please. I think he got dropped or
Yeah,
Sejal,
yeah, he
do you
got
see
dropped.
him?
Yeah, Neeraj is there. Neeraj is there. You can message him तब तक के लिए. Does that sound good? I'll quickly do a disclaimer for the audience as well because
No,
आवाज आ
I
रही है.
have a question to put here because,
Okay.
as you are aware, it's the lawyer in me who always wants to be contra. That is how we sort of grained. If it is correct that every business is cyclical, then it is not possible for the market to have compounded at 13 to 14% per annum in its history. It is not, it is a fact that you cannot rebut. It's the history of the market that it gives you a return of anywhere between, you can argue 13, 14 can be 12 to 14, that 1% doesn't matter. But the fact is that is the history of returns of the Indian stock market since inception, CAGR, which basically means that that is why you need to have a portfolio, because it is always going to be that something is going to lead and something will lag. Now the question is that if you decide to exit what is lagging and it is not within the definition of what you call as, or it is rather, it is in the definition of what you perceive to be cyclical, then you will never get those returns. If it, while I may have been personally also skeptical about, for example, in HDFC Bank, it is not correct that I would have not bought it on a correction, because I know the fact that for those who have held it since inception, they're sitting on 500x returns or even more. And I can tell you that it is not possible for most people in this lifetime to even get one stock at a 500x return. 500x, I'm not talking about 5x. The question is that you will have to create a balance in your portfolio. And when you create a balance in the portfolio, there are also, we are living in an environment which is called VUCA. And in VUCA, it is the competence of the management that transforms from cyclical to a much more less attuned or less impacted business. For example, let's take an example. Today, Reliance Industries is not, I don't own Reliance Industries, but I'm just giving an example. It is not the kind of company that was initially 100% dependent upon oil and gas and government policies. The transformation of Reliance into, whether you call it retail or you call it telephone, is huge. Look at the returns of Bharti. Telecom by definition is a cyclical industry everywhere in the world. Look what Bharti is doing. And if I read about what Mr. Sunil Mittal keeps talking about, he says even now the ARPUs are not even close to what he thinks the ARPUs will be. And it has been an immense wealth creator, irrespective of when you would have entered. So even if you've had 3 years of, say, for example, zero returns, assuming you've had 3 years of zero returns, first thing that many people get wrong, and this will be addressed in the book that I'm about to release. And that book is not my writing, it is the view of 27 of the country's top fund managers. Is that when you calculate the return on a stock, do you even factor in suppose a stock, for example, you exit and the stock does not fall 30%. For example, it doesn't fall 30%, it falls 20%. Anyways, that money you're going to lose out to taxes. And once you have paid that money out, will you get a price of return? So many people in my book are talking about the fact that they sold stocks during stagnation periods, assuming that there was a cyclical impact on the business, and it turned out that the fastest growth there was to emerge thereafter. Don't forget Warren Buffett invested in General Electric in 2008 at the peak of its problems. General Electric was the only stock that had been in Standard and Poor's listing for more than 100 years. And yet the money doubled. So the point that I'm trying to make is that it's a very difficult call. And because it is a difficult call, and even I'll give you this example, one of the reasons why I don't personally watch television. From 9:15 till 3:30, there are 40 people who will come on television. 10 of them will give you an extremely bullish perspective. 10 of them will give you an extremely bearish perspective. 20 of them will just be talking about day trading. How are you going to decide who's going to be right? But the same
But
guys
Safir,
over the
that
same.
is what Safir. Sorry, but I'd just like to counter to both the points that you made, if I can. Right, one, independent of the fact that I'm a television anchor, that is what a television house is supposed to do, right? Get you the plethora of opinions and let people choose
No,
what
no,
they
I'm
want to
coming
do.
to your point. That's what I'm
Huh.
saying. So the point is that at the end of it, you will decide whose views you want to matter.
Agreed.
Now,
Agreed.
for that, you will go back into the track record. And those guys' track record that you go back into, of course, I'm not talking about technical versus fundamental because that's a completely different thing.
Hmm.
But assuming the fact that you decide to follow 5 people, all of them would have compounded over time. So the point is that, and all of them would have seen down cycles. So the reality of it is that you will pick a bunch of stocks or a bunch of people to follow, and you will just sit with the discipline and take the downs and ups as part and parcel of your stride, which is why you keep doing systematic investments. And over a period of time, you will have some rotten eggs, but you'll also have some golden eggs.
Okay. Sorry,
Yeah,
Tanmay,
yeah, please.
Prince,
Yeah,
Sejal, can I just come in because I had lost the feed in between,
yeah,
but
please,
just,
please.
I just heard, I joined in when Safir was questioning about, he doesn't agree that every business is cyclical, and I'm trying to stick to the topic, yeah, so I'll just take a couple of minutes here. Um, you know, the point is, because it's a difficult act, it is difficult to follow, and therefore buy and hold from that perspective is the relatively easier decision. But look at what some of the really good businesses, right, have done when the cycle has been flat and you had options to put money elsewhere and you didn't. Now, I'm not saying it's easy thing. I completely concur with Safir. It's very difficult. And sometimes you sell and then the stock starts moving up. But look at what Reliance has done over the last 2.5 years. Look at what the best chemical companies have done in the last 3 years. Look at what Infosys did if you bought it at the peak of 2000 and it stayed below that 150 price for 8 years. You bought a great company, right? It was a great company. It's been a great compounder over 25 years. Think of the person who bought it at the peak of 2000 and didn't see returns for not 1, 2, 3 years, but 7 years, right? So at some point of time, you got to recognize that if not a cyclical business, the valuations place the stock in a cycle which is going to be flat or down, and you have the option of trying to identify that and move the money elsewhere. And I don't think there is anything wrong in trying to attempt that. I mean, similarly for pharma companies, right? I mean, so many of these brilliant pharma businesses, when COVID hit and post that 1 year, did fabulously well, only to not do anything for the next 2, 3 years. You could have put the money into this EMS stocks or some of the others and made serious money and not have felt the FOMO. And I'm not saying do that with the entire portfolio, but 10, 15, 20% of the portfolio or maybe 30% of the portfolio, if you are indeed into investing as a full-time game, then that's something that is imperative upon you, I would reckon.
Yeah, but here you're creating a confusion, and I will like to clarify that. The
Mm-hmm.
discussion that is happening is on all companies, that means all sectors being cyclical, vis-a-vis your examples of individual companies that stagnated. Now,
Okay, then I missed that, Safir, so
if for
excuse me for
example,
that.
I concur with you, and I've been actually exactly on the same lines as you, that if it is possible that somebody did not make returns in Infosys for 10 years, and I totally agree, and I also give examples of Unilever and, even now
Right, exactly.
Nestle, but within that sector, it doesn't mean others didn't do well, because for an Infosys, there could have been a second discovery of an IT stock that perhaps was unknown and then ended up creating 100 bagger or whatever. I mean, there are examples of companies that, I had not even heard of when I knew about Infosys and TCS, and today I never knew of a company called Coforge, for example, when Infosys was there. I never heard of Seant, and so many such examples. And then the huge wealth was created. What I'm saying is that is why you create a portfolio, because you will not know who is going to be the first student in the class. But to think that one sector is written off permanently, and within that sector nobody will emerge as victorious, is a wrong notion, because in every sector, if for example we say HDFC Bank had no returns for a few years, ICICI Bank has ended up being a 5 or 6 bagger. State Bank of India has ended up being a 5 bagger, whereas it is not necessary that this will continue. It may or may not, we don't know. So therefore we create a portfolio. We see that those performances are benchmarked with peers in the same industry. Sometimes the setbacks are temporary. Sometimes the setbacks are, they could be management changes that are very, I right now, for example, on this group, I'll ask all of you, let's poll and see what is the outcome on Tata Group. Are we going to say that Tata Group will go up or go down? After all, they've had one of the best leaders in the industry, and we are very unfortunate to have lost him. But there could be great opportunity, because I personally feel, and I could be absolutely wrong, and I'm not trying to claim it. I personally feel that a leadership change could make a huge difference to the fortunes of companies. Policy changes can be, and since we don't know, we remain diversified, and because the market is not cyclical, therefore the returns will come in by an entire strategy of diversification, which has never failed.
Yeah, both. I
Yeah,
think. I think. I
okay.
think. I'll just.
Uh,
I'll just pitch in before giving it to Neeraj Bajpai sir, and then we have Sajal sir also waiting. So we get both the points actually. So it's at the broader level of the markets. We talk about how to stay in the long term, and that, and in that we talk about sectors which go through the cycles. And let me come and pitch in of what discussion has been going on, which started with Neeraj Bajpai sir's remarks, and then we had Niraj Shah sir and Safir sir, come into that. The thing is, what happens with retail investors is, so I'll talk about people who have come in post COVID. You see the big names who have created great amount of wealth for lots and lots of people, say a HDFC Bank or a Kotak or Asian Paints or those sort of companies. But now when they started with those things in their portfolio, maybe the returns have been a zero or a negative, or even the Bajaj Finance was the big names which have created wealth for most of the people. Now this creates a sense of doubt in a retail investor कि भाई मैंने वही कंपनी बाय की. I also wanted to be in that journey of having some multi-bagger returns. Obviously they don't understand कि long term में there may be some painful corrections, maybe a sideways correction or a downside which may re-rate a stock, and then there will be see a P re-rating there. बट देन रिटेल इन्वेस्टर के लिए कैसे इस चीज को डिकोड करना इज व्हाट वी आर देयर टू डिस्कस टुडे एक्चुअली, बिकॉज वी अंडरस्टैंड इट्स डिफिकल्ट, बट क्या हम ऐसा कुछ फ्रेमवर्क क्रिएट कर सकते हैं, या वी सी द कॉन कॉल्स और वी सी द बैलेंस शीट्स और वी सी द what parameters to see so that a retail investor can understand कि भाई यहाँ पे peak margins है, यहाँ पे there had been tailwinds, but 200 250 300 की PE पे आप buy कर रहे हैं, आप ऑलरेडी फ्यूचर ग्रोथ को डिस्काउंट कर चुके हैं, एज नीरज सर वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट पावर सेक्टर. सो आई वांट द रिमार्क्स ऑफ एक्सपर्ट्स ऑन दीज थिंग्स. फर्स्ट आई विल हैव नीरज बाजपेयी सर एंड देन सजल सर. या
ओके ओके ओके, सफीर भाई बहुत गुस्सा हो गया. सफीर भाई विद रिस्पेक्ट मैं रिपीट करता हूँ मैंने क्या कहा. मैंने ये कहा है कि एवरी बिजनेस इज सिक्लिकल, एवरी सेक्टर इज सिक्लिकल, बट विद इन दैट यू हैव टू सी अमंग कंपनीज. अगेन आई एम रिपीटिंग इट कि हर बिजनेस सिक्लिकल है, हर कंपनी सिक्लिकल है. टेक्नोलॉजी सेक्टर में हो सकता है कि पूरा सेक्टर सिक्लिकलिटी में जा रहा हो, डाउन ट्रेंड में, लेकिन उसमें से कोई एक कंपनी बहुत अच्छा परफॉर्म करेगी. तो इसलिए आपको कंपनी स्पेसिफिक भी देखना पड़ेगा. अगर आप ईएमएस सेक्टर को आज देखेंगे तो ईएमएस में 25 कंपनियों को मैं जानता हूं. क्या 2500 250 के मल्टीपल पे है? क्या नहीं है, कुछ ही है उसमें. तो उन लोगों ने आउट परफॉर्म किया, बाकी अंडर परफॉर्म कर रही है. तो विद इन सेक्टर भी अंडर परफॉर्मेंस हो सकता है सिक्लिकलिटी की वजह से. उसके रीजन शायद ये होंगे कंपनी के गलत डिसीजंस हैं, गलत बिजनेस में लिया, गलत कैपेक्स कर लिया, गलत डेट लिया, मल्टीपल रीजन हो सकते हैं उसके. तो हर कंपनी, अभी सारी फाइनेंस सेक्टर में आप जाएंगे तो आपको दिखेगा कि कुछ बहुत अच्छा कर रही है, कुछ स्टैग्नेंट हो गई. अब कोफोर्ज, परसिस्टेंट और इनसाइंट ने बहुत अच्छा किया, विप्रो नहीं कर पाया, 10 साल में भी नहीं कर पाया. तो मैं ये कह रहा हूं, और मैं बिल्कुल इसको फर्मली कह रहा हूं कि हर बिजनेस सिक्लिकल है, हर सेक्टर सिक्लिकल है. उसके अंदर आपको फिर कंपनी देखनी पड़ेगी. क्या पूरा सेक्टर ही सारा खराब हो गया? अभी शुगर के लिए एग्जांपल, आप लोगों में से ही बहुत सारे लोग जानते होंगे कि बहुत बड़े एचएनआईज लोगों ने शुगर सेक्टर में 5-7 ईयर्स वेट किया है. हाईली अंडर परफॉर्म सेक्टर था, फिर उसने चलना शुरू किया तो सारे सेक्टर की सारी कंपनी चलने लगी. उसमें से कुछ एक आउट परफॉर्म कर रही थी. तो मैं ये बार बार ही कह रहा हूं कि आप जो कह रहे थे ना कि 15 साल 20 साल लेके बैठ रहे हैं 15% सीआर बनने, उसमें कोई डाउट ही नहीं सर, म्यूचुअल फंड बना ही देते हैं। दिस इज नॉट द थिंग इज कि अगर आप सिक्लिकलिटी को अंडरस्टैंड करना चाहते हैं तो मेरा मानना है कि आपको हर बिजनेस हर कंपनी को समझना पड़ेगा। एवरी बिजनेस इज सिक्लिकल, एवरी कंपनी इज सिक्लिकल। थैंक यू।
Yeah. What,
No,
what,
absolutely, absolutely, and I completely agree with Neeraj Bajpai. So everything is cyclical. I am cyclical. My hormones are cyclical. My mood is cyclical. And Australian cricket team is cyclical. Peak cycle, peak multiple. What Indians did at Perth, right? Everything is cyclical. And just to add to what again Neeraj Bajpai have said on demand versus supply. In cyclical investing, you are better off focusing more on the supply side economics than the demand. So demand is unpredictable. No one knows. Demand सिर्फ स्प्रेडशीट पे होती है, वो materialize होगी नहीं होगी किसी को नहीं पता. Supply is real. So you track supply, and if you want to dig deeper into the economics of supply side, and there are several books, right? Capital returns is a jumbo one, but if you have got limited time, and I'm sure because in today's digital world everyone has got limited time, there's a beautiful chapter. So there's a book called Masterclass with Super Investors, and there's chapter 8 there, which is Kenneth Andrade's chapter. So anyone who is interested in cyclical investing who hasn't read that chapter in that book, if you could only read one chapter in that book, make sure you read Kenneth Andrade's, and trust me, you'll make hell lot of money in some sector, in some stock, and you'll find it. There's a beautiful framework explained in there, so just follow that. And just to your point, Neeraj Shah, that is on the pharma. So you said that there was a time that people should have sold Sun, Lupin, or Aurobindo, and I suppose you were alluding to the top of the cycle in 2015. So yes, Lupin and Aurobindo and many of those pharma companies, they did absolutely nothing for 8-9 years. But exactly during that time, pharma as a sector performed brilliantly well. And I can give you multiple examples: JB Pharma, Torrent Pharma, RPG Life, Kaplan Point, truckload of companies just deliver 20 bagger, 30 bagger returns in the exact same time window. So again, pharma as a sector is a misnomer. Chemical as a sector is a misnomer. You have to go bottoms up, pick the business at the bottom of the cycle, single digit ROC, where the business cycle is about to revive and the sentiments are negative. You will make truckloads of money. And you keep doing this, keep switching. So market, there's a fan following on Newland at the moment today. Where were these bulls and fans 2 years ago, right? So just to set the context. But yeah, I'm happy to take any
yeah.
No, but
questions.
Sir, before giving Neeraj sir, before giving it to you, just one remark. So this is the beauty of having so many different experts on the panel, because we get to hear different views, and I
No, but
believe
my
that
question is, what is the different view? It's the same view.
no,
Everybody
no,
saying
no.
this. Everybody said the same thing.
Absolutely. No, I absolutely agree
बाद में
with
तो जाके
Sajal.
मुझे लगा कि all we
100%.
are saying is that
Yeah,
sectors
yeah,
sectors में there may be companies that may be cyclical. Yes, we all agree.
yeah, yeah.
That nobody doubts. That's why you shuffle your portfolio.
Yes, and this is why, as a retail investor, I want all of your expert comments on this. Will take Neeraj Shah sir's comment after this. Is कि as a investor हमको कैसा portfolio build करना है, diversify कैसे करना है, and how to pick those sectors. जैसे अभी I'll give you an example, like power sector, हर कोई चाहता है कि power sector रहे. Maybe a year back everyone wanted defense stocks or PSU stocks, and देखो बाद में जाके जब भी रिटेल इन्वेस्टर ऐड करता है, पार्टी इज ऑलमोस्ट ओवर, और उसके बाद होता है फूड पॉइजनिंग, एंड द पोर्टफोलियो टेक्स अ हिट, एंड पीपल फील कि यार इतने सेक्टर्स ऐसे हैं जो वायरल हैं, हर जगह हर कोई बात कर रहा है, बट देन आई स्टिल मेकिंग अप losses in this kind of sectors. So how as a retail investor can simplify this thing कि भाई मैं एक तो वैल्यूएशन समझ लूं कि किस वैल्यूएशन में एंटर करना है किस सेक्टर में, प्लस हाउ टू पिक दो सेक्टर्स. जैसे अभी एवरीवन, इफ आई आस्क कि आपका गो टू सेक्टर क्या है फॉर द नेक्स्ट डेकेड, प्रोबेबली we'll have 4 or 5 or 6 sectors which will be common to each of the experts. बट देन एज अ रिटेल इन्वेस्टर उसको एंट्री कैसे लेने का है, एंड हाउ टू पिक स्टॉक्स इन दो सेक्टर्स इज
बट डॉक्टर तन्मय, आप क्यों सेक्टर बोल रहे हो? जैसे आई गिव एन एग्जांपल,
या
आप अभी जैसे बोल रहे हो कि डिफेंस सेक्टर हैज करेक्टेड, यू नो द करेक्शन इन भारत इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स इज लेस देन द करेक्शन इन मार्केट. So they will. So why are you calling it a correction of the defense sector? Similarly, if you look at pharma, you will say the rise in Newland is more disproportionate to anybody else.
या
मेरा point है, आप बोलो कि stocks के अंदर where
फेयर
is it
पॉइंट,
that you
फेयर
should be
पॉइंट,
exiting?
या फेयर
But
पॉइंट.
they might be new. For example, it may be possible in the IT sector, the next hero is actually not a company that we are aware of today. It's possible. That's how the nature of investing is. Now, even in power, while we may be writing off the power sector, it is possible in the power sector there may be companies that will still give crazy returns. Maybe the sector will not. That's what I'm saying. That is what is going to make our task. That's why investors have to be vigilant. They have to read. They have to. Otherwise, they cannot survive.
True. Over to Neeraj Shah, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, but मेरा view in the some sense slightly different इसलिए है because I do believe that while there might be individual companies that might do well, but if the majority of the companies, if us, so see I to my mind there is a difference. The difference is that there is a peak performance of a company which and the company may not perform for a number of years at times because of valuation and at times because the cycle of a sector has come off. Now you can always give me examples of one or two or three companies within that sector which have done well, but the sector at large may not do well in a down cycle. And at that point of time, to expect that every retail investor will be able to pick the two or three companies which will be outliers is difficult. It's great. It's possible for Safir or Sajal to do that very, very well because unko pakad bahut zabardast hai. Not everybody can do it. That's my first view. Two, my second view is that we're talking about how, but yeah, boss, मैं mutual fund नहीं हूँ ना. I don't have to keep every sector in my portfolio. I can have 50% or 30% allocation in one sector. I can completely choose to avoid chemicals in my portfolio. No, I don't need to have chemicals in my portfolio. So what if one or two stocks have done well? I rather go where the puck is, right? Where the money is going. So if there is a lot of investment happening in power in 2021 or 22, overload the portfolio with power at that point of time because valuations were in your favor. There was a government spend happening. Why do I need to find that one outlier in chemicals? That's my question. So my limited worldview out here is that there will be times when sugar, a classic example, right? It moves in cycles. No matter what you do, there will be other sectors and the weakest company in the other sector will give me better returns than the best performance in a sugar company in a down cycle. So my limited view is that you should identify bottom-up investing, but for a retail investor who will not be as equipped as a Neeraj Bajpai, as a Sajal Kapoor or a Safir Anand, try and diversify your portfolio, but definitely look at cycles. If you are wanting to do cycles, if you're not wanting to do cycles, and if you want to play it safe, ले लो यार, diversify कर लो portfolio को, keep it across multiple stocks, and then therefore your portfolio will do well. And that's maybe a fail-safe strategy, simply because you are not equipped enough to do that, and therefore either you do it by diversifying your portfolio yourself or trust a mutual fund. I just have one last point to make here. Markets may have compounded 13, Nifty for example compounds 13, 14, 15% over a 20-year period because Nifty itself reshuffles so many stocks, right? It gets in the well-performing stocks, weeds out the underperformers. If the Nifty had the same 50 stocks from 2001 till 2025, I can lay the last dollar on the line that it would not have compounded for 14, 15%. The performance which have been much lower because sectors and stocks go through cycles.
No, so
I agree.
I like to give some answers first on that. Now, first of all, you are actually saying exactly what the conversation was when we started this talk. The first subject was that we don't know, and therefore we are diversified. The second point that we said is, in order to know that whether we are going right or not, we have to track companies, which is why, for
No,
example, you track results, you track developments, you track policies. Now, as I'll give an example, when I bought, I have the least knowledge on sugar compared to some of the Maharathis, who have got some very high position in sugar. I also have position in sugar, but I'm not as competent as, for example, an Anil ji, who's like a big investor in sugar. But it wasn't difficult for me to understand that there was going to be an implications of two things. One was alcohol and one was ethanol. And therefore to track what the government's focus there. And there are sugar companies there that have given 12 to 14x returns, just an X dividend, by the fact that you have only played on policies. Now, did I know that it would be company A versus B or C? The answer is no. So you bought maybe two or three companies and then you discovered which management is being aggressive. I'm just giving example. Now, when you give an example of Nifty and the component chain, nobody debates that, because I also say that buy and hold strategy is not going to work. But buy and hold strategy of a diversified portfolio will always work, because you will
Agree.
always discover, like I said, what I call as bad eggs and golden eggs.
Yeah, okay.
नहीं नहीं
Actually,
absolutely.
नीरज शाह ने जो एग्जांपल दिया ना, वो बहुत ही अच्छा एग्जांपल है कि अगर निफ्टी में कोई चेंज नहीं होता, 5% सीजर होता अभी। पॉइंट वहीं पे है साफिर भाई, हम लोग गलत नहीं है, एक दूसरे की कॉम्प्लीमेंट ही कर रहे हैं। अभी एक ही बात को बार बार कह रहे हैं।
मैं भी वही बोल रहा हूँ, हम एक ही चीज बोल रहे हैं।
एग्जैक्टली, तो उसको उसी पे आज ये डिस्कशन है कि क्या हम सिक्लिकल इन्वेस्टिंग कर सकते हैं क्या। वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड। मैं इस पे एक पॉइंट और जोड़ना चाहता हूँ, रादर कि अगर हम लोग उसके पॉइंट पे जाएं, आपको डिस्ट्रप्शन समझना पड़ेगा। अभी क्या है, बहुत सारी इंडस्ट्री जो इट्स ए पार्ट ऑफ सिक्लिकल इंडस्ट्री या सिक्लिकलिटी, कि क्या उस सेक्टर में कोई ऐसा डिस्ट्रप्शन हो रहा है जिसकी वजह से आपको अपने इन्वेस्टमेंट को चेंज करना पड़ेगा। अगर आप नहीं करेंगे तो आपका स्टॉक कुछ नहीं कर पाएगा। ऐसा बहुत सारी इंडस्ट्री में इस समय हो रहा है या हमेशा होता रहता है, तो उसको देखना पड़ेगा कि डिस्ट्रप्शन इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट, क्योंकि उस वजह से पूरा बिजनेस चेंज हो रहा है उस कंपनी का और वो पीछे रह जाएगा। वेरी रिलेटिव एग्जांपल मैं आपको देता हूँ, एशियन पेंट्स ने अब तक बहुत वेल्थ बना के दिए, लेकिन अब क्या हो रहा है उसके साथ, क्योंकि एक बड़ा प्लेयर आ गया है, उसने पूरे मार्केट को शेक कर दिया है। 10-12% की सिकुलर ग्रोथ पे चल रही थी पेंट की इंडस्ट्री, बहुत आराम से सब लोग मजे से कमा रहे थे। एक ऐसा प्लेयर आया जिसने क्रॉस ब्लॉक कर दिया 20,000 करोड़ का। 60,000 करोड़ की पूरी इंडस्ट्री में 20,000 करोड़ अकेले एक आदमी कर रहा है, तो इंडस्ट्री हिल गई। तो इस वजह से इन्वेस्टर को सिर्फ इसलिए कि एशियन पेंट बहुत महान कंपनी, नो डाउट महान, आई वाउच फॉर इट, बट मैं उसी में बना रहूंगा क्योंकि वो सबसे अच्छी कंपनी है, सर वेल्थ नहीं बनेगी। फिर मैं सिर्फ इतनी बात कहने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ। ऐसे बहुत सारे एग्जांपल आपको आईटी में मिलेंगे जहां टेक्नोलॉजी का डिसरप्शन हो रहा है, और अगर आप 3% 4% की सर्विस इंडस्ट्री ग्रोथ कर रहे हो, 30 का मल्टीपल आप लेके बैठेंगे, सर जस्टिफाइड नहीं है। म्यूचुअल फंड की मजबूरी है क्यों खरीदेंगे, टॉप कंपनी को अपने पोर्टफोलियो में रखनी
तो
है।
सर,
दैट डज नॉट मीन
यही तो बात है ना। सी नाउ इफ यू गो बैक इनटू हिस्ट्री, डिड यू नो 5 years back, for example, that there will be a launch by Grasim of paints? The answer is nobody knew. But 5 years back also, if you go back to my tweets, I said Asian Paints will not give you returns. And the reason was not based upon a perception that there will be competition. The reason was the valuation was not comfortable, which is why I say buy at any price is a complete nonsense.
करेक्ट। बात इज नॉट
या
द
बस इतना सिंपल है। मतलब अब अगर अब
थिंग।
कल की डेट में एशियन पेंट कुछ मेजर चीज कर दे और लोग बोलें जी ग्रोथ वापस आ गई, यू कैन ऑलवेज पार्टिसिपेट, कोई फाइन थोड़ी लगाए कि हम कमरे के अंदर वापस नहीं आ सकते।
ना बिल्कुल नहीं, वही तो मैं कही कर रहा हूँ कि सिक्लिकलिटी को समझना है बिजनेस लेवल पे और कंपनी लेवल पे, इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट।
Okay. So I think we will move on to the next set of discussions जो already planned है.
नहीं एक
सजल
एक
सर,
एक सेकंड
या
डॉक्टर साहब, मैं एक पॉइंट, नीरज शाह साहब जो बोल रहे थे रिटेल इन्वेस्टर के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से, आई थिंक ही वाज एब्सोल्युटली स्पॉट ऑन देयर। क्योंकि जो लो हैंगिंग फ्रूट है कुछ सेक्टर्स में इजी है। तो मैं एग्जांपल देता हूं कि जब भयानक सेक्टर टेलविंड चलती है ना, तो लंगड़ा केमिकल भी नाच रहा था 2014-15 में, इतनी भयानक टेलविंड थी सेक्टर की। यू फ्लिप द कॉइन इन 2021, कोई केमिकल बचा जो करेक्ट नहीं हुआ, एंड सिग्निफिकेंटली करेक्ट नहीं हुआ, बिकॉज वो आईपीओ का बूम, बैंड बाजा बारात के साथ 50 टाइम्स प्राइस टू सेल्स पे क्लीन साइंस ने सबको क्लीन बोल्ड किया कि नहीं किया। तत्व चिंतन, मतलब आज तक लोग आत्मचिंतन कर रहे हैं। तो सेम सेक्टर, तो अगर आपको भयानक सेक्टर टेलविंड मिल गई है, उस केस में हो सकता है कि जिस बैलेंस शीट पे डेट हो और जो टियर 2 कंपनी हो वो ज्यादा पैसा कमा के दे जाए आपको। अगर भयानक सेक्टर टेलविंड चल रही है, यही कंडीशन है। अगर बेयर मार्केट है या साइडवेज मार्केट है, तो उसमें लीन बैलेंस शीट, मैनेजमेंट एंड सेक्टर लीडर, वो सब ज्यादा चलेंगे या कम गिरेंगे, पैसा वहां बचाने की ज्यादा पॉसिबिलिटी है। लेकिन अगर बुल रन है, सेक्टर में, तो थोड़ी बैलेंस शीट में डेट हो तो उसको फाइनेंशियल लेवरेज भी मिलेगा ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज के साथ। तो एक डबल इंजन की सरकार और टीयर 2 स्टॉक, छोटा मार्केट कैप जिसको रगड़ना ज्यादा आसान होता है ना, तो वहां पे पैसा ज्यादा तेजी से बनेगा। सो आई कंप्लीटली एग्री विद नीरज शाह पॉइंट दैट रिटेल इन्वेस्टर के लिए लो हैंगिंग फ्रूट्स वाले सेक्टर ज्यादा प्रोडक्टिव रहेंगे, ज्यादा मेहनत करनी नहीं पड़ेगी, छोटा सा मतलब इन्वेस्टमेंट करो, थोड़ा बहुत रेशियो देखा, थोड़ा बहुत एक दो ट्रांसक्रिप्ट के नोट्स देखे, और 6 महीने 9 महीने में पैसा बन जाएगा। वहां पे लो हैंगिंग फ्रूट्स में इन्वेस्ट करना ज्यादा प्रॉफिटेबल होता है। That's all.
One point I wanted to share for the benefit of all our listeners is that, um, since I have now just completed this book and it took several months and it was to and fro with all these people, some of them in fact came back and even revised their chapters. You must remember that the concept of price to earning is actually not always what you see as correct. In other words, it is possible that what you see as a low P is actually going to deteriorate further. I mean, don't be carried away just because industry P is 30 and some company is quoting at 10, that the 10 has to go to 20 or it has to go to 30, it has to catch up. I mean, cheap can remain cheap for long, cheap can be eliminated. And similarly, it is possible that what optically looks like 100 P completely changes because of the nature of the business. For example, they may be upfronted capex, that capex may have caused the business, and that a clear example of that is what has happened now in Zomato, when where even somebody as knowledgeable as Mr. Damodaran has now come and said that it was a mistake on his part. So don't be fixated so much alone on PE. PE has to be seen in context to growth. The market will always reward growth and the market will always punish stagnation.
Perfect, sir. So one common questions to all our speakers, would appreciate your thoughts. Like, what are few pointers which I mean, obviously, though the people who have seen cycles and there are which are in the markets for longer period of time, they identify easily the movement of smart money. But as a retailer, what are few pointers wherein we can track the movement of smart money basis, which we can see that the traction is going to a particular sector and we can take small exposure understanding those things.
See, everybody will have a different answer because that is where it's like how you're conditioned in your mind. Now, what happens is one of the things that, for example, seems to have worked is that if a particular a particular transition has worked well internationally and it is at the cusp of a start in India, then usually it will play out because there will be first there will be companies that will experiment, then there will be acquisitions, which is exactly why, just to give you an example, as I do not remember now how many years back, but when I spoke in favor of the hospital sector, which is perhaps one of the largest exposure that I took sector wise at an early level, the point was that there was not even a single chain worth the weightage in technology, were the excess, because the top doctors were extremely busy and therefore they could not, did not have the time. But technology changed that because it enabled online reporting, the kind of changes that the diagnostic and the X-ray industries and the ultrasounds, etc., brought, where consultations could be done online because the accuracy of the reports went up. And the fact that people started moving away from hiding money to showing returns, because earlier the promoter would play hospital more for land. Now he started playing it for beds and for the treatment of people, etc., etc. When that transformation, and then you can see that I think in the last maybe 2 to 3 years, there must have been more than 20 acquisitions within the sector itself. And then if you now notice that some of the largest players that have come in the sector are actually international chain. If you look at it now, whether you look at a Max or you look at a Fortis, they're based out of Singapore. There will still be consolidations. Apollo has done a placement. So there are many such examples. What I'm trying to tell you is that you have to look at it from the perspective of a holistic thing rather than from an isolated example. And then you will find many things. Now today I can show you the fact that many people would have gone absolutely wrong on their targets of hospitals because they were not wrong. They were looking at past. That's not wrong. I mean, at the end of the day, they had reasons to believe that a hospital sector cannot have a high return because the history did not give a high return. But the history changed. And today, if you look at it, believe me, the returns in the hospital sector have beaten the market by a factor of 10x. 10x. The question is that when somebody was see, the easiest thing is to do is to become the a Peter Lynch model, which is you go to a hospital, you go and see is the quality of service improving, you go and see how's the check-in and check-out process, are they accepting cash or they're taking credit card and Paytms of the world, etc. And then you come and say that, look, is there incremental services that they are giving? Is there an after effect service? They're providing you nursing services at home. The same hospitals have got dispensaries in it. The same hospitals have got testing centers in them. The same hospitals now are replicating the ATM model of the banking. Banks' growth came in when ATMs came. Today, the same hospitals are creating kiosks in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, where you come and log in and you scan your report and the doctor comes in. The telecom industry was a big boom for hospitals because it enabled what today you can consult Dr. Tanmay, who otherwise has no time to say hello, but he's going to consult with you online. So this is a big change that is coming in from technology. And that is exactly why yesterday, I just as an example, I shared this, I asked people to read on this California mining thing, because the real wealth was not created by the mining company, it was created by those who benefited, like Levi's, when they invented the jeans for the miners to wear. And that was a complete game changer.
Yeah, I think on the similar lines which you talked about, Safir sir, I'll take a few comments from Sajal sir and Neeraj Bajpai sir as well. So the thing is, as you rightly pointed out, there are some sectors which get underwritten, and then this is where the valuations, market at times, becomes overtly pessimistic on those particular companies, which may be fundamentally good, but then this is where a good amount of wealth is created. So how to pick up those companies, and at current juncture, what do you see? The GDP numbers have come in. We believe that the growth is slowing down. So as at the current particular scenario, do you feel that the market may be paying for quite some time? There will be a sideline movement, and investors would be tested. There would be some good companies that.
No, why are you calling it market? Say, will there be stocks that will give returns? And will there be stocks that will erode returns? Yes, answer will be there will be some stocks that will give you great return, and there will be some stocks that will erode returns.
Yes. So the question was actually to get what are the things that look attractive to each of the experts. I'll start with Sajal sir, then Neeraj Bajpai sir, and then Safir sir. Over to you.
हाँ तो बिल्कुल आई एग्री विद साफिर. मैं मार्केट में आज तक मैंने इन्वेस्ट नहीं किया. आई हैव नेवर इन्वेस्टेड इन मार्केट. आई हैव इन्वेस्टेड इन इंडिविजुअल बिजनेसेस that are not at their peak of their cycle. So I don't know what is the bottom of the cycle. What I would rather know is what is the peak of the cycle or near peak of the cycle, and where the valuations are, and I will avoid those pockets regardless of which sector they are. So if we speak today, I mean I'm a big bull in the chemicals space. So my number one go-to sector would be as on today there are many pockets that I like. I like textile as a pocket. And I like certain pockets within the consumer. So there are many segments within consumers, not just FMCG. Hospital was a consumption, right? 2-3 years ago, that was the time to cherry pick. Randomly you could have bought any hospital, and I agree with what Safir said. That the performance of that sector has embarrassed many in my own friend circle. So आज की बात करें तो chemicals, again, both GMP and non-GMP. So GMP chemicals is the active pharmaceutical ingredients, and that's GMP, good manufacturing practices. That's what GMP is, and non-GMP is anything other than that. So including agrochemical. अभी इतना सन्नाटे का माहौल संताप चल रहा है एग्रोकेमिकल में. That's where you would find out performance. So chemicals, I think, is my number one sector as I speak. Very reasonable valuations, both on the GMP chemical as well as the non-GMP. Again, common sense. as I said, read chapter 8, Kenneth Andrade साहब का. Just follow the framework. I try and share as much as I can. I've done, truckloads of podcasts. They're all pinned to my Twitter handle. So that's one. You would still find few good bets in the textile, and then in the consumption space, even including FMCG. So this pessimism and demand crunch in the FMCG space will not last forever, right? So those are the three sort of, and if I could rank them, so if I were to invest, let's say 100 rupees as on today, I would probably do at least 70% in chemicals, and then maybe 20 in consumption space and 10 in textile, probably in that sort of weight.
And you're not
Can I?
just one quick question
Yeah.
to Sajal sir, leading question, because lots of people have commented. What are your views on pharma right now? And yeah,
So again, pharma, Dr. Saab, ऐसा है ना कि it's not a
yeah,
sector. So
true.
as I said, Lupin and Aurobindo versus JB Pharma, Torrent, RPG. So again, pharma, we are not investing in a sector, we are not investing in a market. मुझे ये देखना है कि कौन से धंधे ने पैसा नहीं कमा के दिया है पिछले 2-3 साल में, क्यों नहीं कमा के दिया है, क्या बदल रहा है वहां, कैपेक्स किया है क्या, बहुत सारा कैपेबिलिटी ऐड करी है क्या, एंड वो वाली पॉकेट्स में जहां पे खूब सारा कैपेक्स हुआ है और वो ऑपरेटिंग डीलेवरेज क्रिएट कर रहा है, और मतलब पीएनएल की इस समय बिल्कुल बुरी तरीके से जो है हालत खस्ता है, रोसी सिंगल डिजिट में है, वो वाली फार्मा कंपनीज जहां पे आपको लगता है कि मैनेजमेंट जो है वो आउटराइट फ्रॉड नहीं है, करेक्ट, एंड रोसी सिंगल डिजिट में है, बहुत सारा डिप्रिसिएशन पिछले 3-4 साल में खूब बढ़ा है. सो आप जाके देखिए 2020-21 में उस कंपनी का क्या डिप्रिसिएशन था और उसका आज क्या डिप्रिसिएशन है. इफ देयर इज अ जंप इन डिप्रिसिएशन, दैट मींस कैपेसिटीज ऐड हुई हैं. फिर आप देखिए कि ईबिटा कहां था 2021 में उस कंपनी का और आज कहां ईबिटा है, और अगर ईबिटा आज डाउन है रिलेटिव टू 2021, दैट मींस कि वहां बहुत सारा पेन चल रहा है, बहुत सारा संताप है, संताप में ही सुख है. I think that's how I would put it.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sejal, you were asking some question. Yeah.
Yeah, Tanmay, so I just wanted to say one thing that, we have a lot of experts who are there as speakers today. बट हमारे स्पेस में बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग हैं, या मुझे एटलीस्ट डीएम्स आ रहे हैं कि स्पेस थोड़ा ज्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्स हो रहा है, इसको सिंपल करो. So I would just request all my speakers that, obviously we have specific views and discussions around different topics, and that is very, very important. But at the same time, we need to understand कि स्पेस का आइडिया ही यही है कि मेरे जैसे लोग हैं, राइट, मेरे जैसे एज इन जो 2021 के इन्वेस्टर्स हैं, जिन्होंने अभी थोड़ा थोड़ा इन्वेस्ट करना स्टार्ट किया है, तो स्पेस हमारे लिए थोड़ी सी सिंपल बन जाए कि हमको we can also participate or at least understand more actively. That is all I
नहीं तो
wanted to
क्या
request.
करना है, आप ये समझाओ करना क्या है.
नहीं, एक सेकंड, मैं इसको सिंप्लीफाई करता हूं. screener.in पे गए आपने जाके देखा केमिकल सेक्टर में 4 साल का आपको डिप्रिसिएशन देखना है, बेसिक मैथ्स, और आपको पिछले 4 साल का ईबिटा देखना है. अगर ईबिटा डाउन है पिछले 4 साल में और डिप्रिसिएशन ऊपर है, तो मिल गया आपको पहला फिल्टर. फिर आप उसमें और देखो कि स्टॉक ने क्या किया है, आपने जाके स्टॉक का चार्ट देख लिया, अगर स्टॉक ने अंडर परफॉर्म किया है पिछले 3-4 साल में, तो हो गया, बस आपका काम इतना ही करना है.
Right.
ये कैसे, मतलब ये डिफिकल्ट कैसे?
See, that's the DMs that I got, right? And I shared the information. That is all I meant to say.
हाँ, नहीं, बट ठीक है, बट दिस इज एज सिंपल
Right.
एज इवन अ 10-year-old किड कैन डू दैट. क्योंकि सिर्फ आपको देखना ही तो है कि 2021 में क्या था डिप्रिसिएशन, आज क्या डिप्रिसिएशन है, बढ़ा है डिप्रिसिएशन, गुड, कैपेसिटी ऐड हुई है. ईबिटा क्या था 2021 में, आज क्या है ईबिटा डाउन है, इसका मतलब पेन हुआ है, तो पीएनएल भी डाउन होगा, ईपीएस सभी कुछ डाउन होगा. तो हो गया आपका मोटा मोटी 8 आउट ऑफ 10. इस एग्जाम्पल में सिर्फ इतना बेसिक फिल्टर बता रहा हूं, इसमें 8 आउट ऑफ 10 चलेंगे, और 8 आउट ऑफ 10 इज अ ग्रेट आउटकम, क्योंकि जो 2 नहीं चलेंगे वो अंडर परफॉर्म ही करेंगे. अब मरे हुए को क्या मारोगे, वो तो ऑलरेडी कब्रिस्तान में लेटा हुआ है. हो गया काम, बन गया 2-3 बैगर आपका 2-3 साल में.
Perfect, sir. Sir, Neeraj sir, you were to share your views also.
मैं बिल्कुल सहमत हूँ इन लोगों जो कह रहे हैं। मैं ये कह रहा हूँ कि जो अभी इस वक्त हमारी किसी ने कहा कि मार्केट देखते रही, बिल्कुल सही, हम लोग भी इंडेक्स देख के क्या करना है, जिसको निफ्टी ईटीएफ में लगाना वही देखें। लेकिन लार्जली मार्केट से पता चलता है कि मूड सेंटीमेंट क्या है, मार्केट को लोग देखते हैं, भले ही कहें लेकिन देखते हैं लोग मार्केट। तो मेरा मानना है कि अगले 3 से 4-5 महीने तक मार्केट बहुत साइडवेज रहेगी, क्योंकि ग्राउंड पे वैसे सेंटिमेंट्स नहीं दिख रहे हैं मुझे। आज जीडीपी का नंबर जो आया कल वो भी वैसे ही बता रहा है, और आप जीएसटी का नंबर देखिए, उसकी जो रन रेट है वो थोड़ी सी कम हो रही है, और ना तो फेस्टिव डिमांड ऐसी थी, ना कार सेल्स वैसी है, तो थोड़ा सा मार्केट अभी साइडवेज रहेगा। लेकिन हाँ, स्टॉक में आपके लिए बहुत अपॉर्चुनिटीज होगी, जैसे सजल और सफीर कह रहे हैं, तो इन्वेस्टर के लिए कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं। इंडेक्स लेवल पे, मार्केट लेवल पे सेंटिमेंट थोड़ा सा डविश रहेगा, एटलीस्ट टिल बजट, जब तक बड़े बड़े इवेंट नहीं हो जाते। रही बात सेक्टर्स की, तो एक तो बिल्कुल जो सफीर ने कहा, हॉस्पिटल सेक्टर इज रियली गुड, बहुत बढ़िया है। उसमें तो आपको जो अपने एडवाइजर से पूछिए, जो बेस्ट दिखता है उसमें देखिए। दूसरा मुझे लगता है आईटी एनेबल्ड, आईटी बेस्ड, आईटी सपोर्टेड जो भी इंडस्ट्रीज है, जहां पे ज्यादा टेक्नोलॉजी यूज की जा रही है अपने बिजनेस को एक्सपेंड करने के लिए, उस पर फोकस करिए, क्योंकि वहां मार्जिन बहुत ज्यादा होते हैं और वो ओवरनाइट एक्सपेंड कर सकते हैं। ब्रिक एंड मोर्टार नहीं कि फैक्ट्री लगेगी फिर देखेंगे, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता वहां पे। तो वो बिजनेसेस में डिसरप्शन बहुत है, और वहीं सबसे ज्यादा पैसा भी बनेगा। तो आपको टेक्नोलॉजी एनेबल्ड बिजनेसेस को देखना चाहिए, जो उसके दम पे आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। तो वो एक सेक्टर है, उसको लगभग हर सेक्टर में वैसे आपको चीजें मिलेंगी, या बहुत सारी जिनको हम लोग इंटरनेट कंपनी कहने लगे। मैं इसलिए नाम नहीं ले रहा था क्योंकि फिर आदमी 2 कंपनी सोच लेगा अच्छा यही वाली होगी, नहीं, बहुत सारी कंपनी है जो टेक्नोलॉजी के इस्तेमाल से बहुत आगे बढ़ रही है। तो वहां पे मुझे लगता है कि बहुत बड़ी अपॉर्चुनिटीज है। और तीसरा मुझे लगता है कि जो एग्रोकेमिकल सेक्टर है उस पर फोकस करना चाहिए, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ अभी भी बहुत अंडर पेनिट्रेशन है, तो उसमें अच्छी कंपनियां बहुत कम है। अगर ढूंढने जाएंगे तो बहुत आसानी से आपको कंपनियां मिल जाएंगी, और जो सजल फार्मूला बता रहे हैं वो स्क्रीनर पर आप देख सकते हैं। तो बहुत अच्छी अच्छी कंपनी एग्रोकेमिकल में। तो ये 3-4 सेक्टर जो मुझे अच्छे लगते हैं। मार्केट साइडवेज रहेगा, लेकिन इन सब के बावजूद मैं अगेन ये कहूंगा कि मल्टीपल बहुत जरूरी। वैल्यूएशन अगर आपने ठीक से नहीं देखा तो सेक्टर कितना भी अच्छा हो, गलत वैल्यूएशन पे एंट्री होगी तो फिर आप बैठे रहेंगे बहुत समय तक, पैसे नहीं बनेंगे। क्योंकि मीन रिवर्सल चाहिए आपको। आपको जो वैल्यूएशन है इंडस्ट्री का, सेक्टर का, उसका मीन क्या है। मान लीजिए एक कमरे में 50-100 लोग बैठे हुए हैं, उसमें फिर सजल भाई आ जाए, तो सबकी अचानक से एवरेज वेल्थ 1 करोड़ की हो गई। बट मैं 51वें व्यक्ति की वेल्थ जानना चाहता हूँ। इसलिए मैं कह रहा हूँ बार बार कि मुझे पी मल्टीपल बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है। एंट्री पॉइंट के लिए वो देखना जरूरी है। रिटेल इन्वेस्टर के लिए एक ही चीज देखना है उसको, कि एंट्री सही हो जाए उसकी, तो एटलीस्ट वो पैसा लूज नहीं करेगा अगर बनेगा नहीं तो। लेकिन अगर एंट्री गलत हो गई तो बनने की भी संभावना बहुत कम होगी, लूज करने की संभावना बहुत ज्यादा होगी। तो ये मुझे लगता है बहुत सिंपल से फार्मूले हैं जो रिटेल इन्वेस्टर को ध्यान रखनी चाहिए।
हाँ नीरज भाई, एक ही चीज पीई में ऐड करूंगा कि जो लॉस मेकिंग कंपनी है उसकी तो पीई होगी नहीं, या पीई बहुत हाई होगी। तो 60 रुपए का जब भाव था पिरामल फार्मा का, तो क्या पीई थी? तो अगर पीई देख के आप
नहीं,
ले रहे हो तो आपको वो भी एक माइंडसेट होना चाहिए
बिल्कुल
कि
सफीर भाई,
पीई कहाँ है उस
सजल भाई
साइकिल में।
बिल्कुल सही कहा आपने। इसलिए मैंने शुरू में कहा था कंपनी स्पेसिफिक बिजनेस भी समझना होगा आपको। वहां पे
जी
आप जाके नंदिनी पीरामल जी की कमेंट्री सुननी पड़ेगी, तब आपको समझ में आएगा पीरामल फार्मा क्या करने वाला है।
जी, करेक्ट।
So, Safir sir, next question is basically on the, we have seen that H1 में Q2 के results were not so good, और जो capex cycle का we all know that H1 में it has been a laggard government spend actually. So we feel that after this Maharashtra election, so probably H2 में capex आना चाहिए। तो in those lines आपका थोड़ा क्या view है? Although we all agree that the discussion is around company specific, but broadly basket level पे Q3 results का आपका क्या expectations है?
You see, I can't comment upon the next quarter because that is too fast an action. After all, don't forget September is already over and October, November, December has started. And or if you're talking in context to March, in between will be a budget on first. So the question is going to be, I personally feel that, I don't personally feel, I hope more than anything else that the government will realize that it has to now concentrate on increasing consumption. And whether they do it by a tax cut, or they do it by a surcharge removal, or they do it by increasing government capex or borrowings or something, but the point is it is the need of the hour, including interest rate cut. I mean, the cost of borrowing is too high right now. So अब अगर वो होता है तो बिजनेस ऑन ट्रैक आ सकता है, और अगर ऑन ट्रैक आएगा तो फिर मार्केट भी रिवॉर्ड करेगी. सेकंड चीज है कि I don't personally believe that with the kind of corpus that the FIs have in the country, why people get too enamored by their FII daily numbers and say that they have done record selling, but that record selling is completely disproportionate to their ownership still. The question is that they are not sitting here to erode their portfolios. A man does not say that I've done a selling of 1 lakh crore and therefore it is so significant if my investment is still 97% left in India, 97%, 98% left in India. They will come back, or even if they don't come back for the time being, they will stop selling. Their stopping selling itself will be a catalyst for the market. I don't personally believe that the market will not do well in the next few months. It is not my belief. I believe that it can do well or it can fall. I'm not saying it has to do well. It can do well and it can fall. The question is that there are unpredictable variables. Those unpredictable variables also include the cessation of war. If there is going to be a cessation of war, which nobody in this world can comment upon today, it will have a dramatic impact on the market. I'm not, if there is actual real ceasefire, don't forget, अब न्यूज आती है कि यूक्रेन said that there's going to be ceasefire, फिर कोई second line पढ़ता नहीं कि उसमें लिखा होता है it is the condition that we become part of NATO. It's not easy ना, इतना आसान थोड़ी है. अगर होता तो इतने साल लड़ाई चलती नहीं. बट अगर किसी रीजन से लड़ाई बंद हो गई और उसका इम्पैक्ट ग्लोबल मार्केट्स पे आएगा, मैसिवली आएगा. रिस्क ऑन ट्रेड, जिसको वो वर्ड बोलते हैं, रोज आके शुरू कर देंगे रिस्क ऑन ट्रेड इज ऑन. And see, there is unpredictability vis-a-vis US. Now, as an example, I personally have been bearish on large IT companies now for I think 3+ years or maybe more. The point is that, and I wrote that, that there is a negative side of the visas in the US. But then within a matter of few hours I wrote, but इसका positive भी हो सकता है. तो positive ये है कि if US में Trump is a capitalist, if Trump decides to do some sort of benefit for the US companies, including in terms of tax rates that he's talking about, तो उनकी spending power बढ़ जाएगी. And IT is an enabler of growth. I mean, nobody in the world disputes the fact that it's an enabler of growth. फिर उनके IT budgets बढ़ जाएंगे. Then I don't want to be the man who looks silly by saying कि मैंने तो बोला था ये देखो जी नेगेटिव है, और फिर मैं जाके प्रूव करूं कि मैंने तो 3 साल से बोला था. वो बोलेंगे आपने 3 साल से बोला था, तो आज की डेट में जब चेंज, व्हेन देयर वाज अ चेंज, तो आपने व्यू क्यों नहीं चेंज करी? यू हैव टू बी pragmatic and you have to change. That is why you have to be a more agile investor. If I find that there's a trace of change, remember one thing, in the journey of a stock return, it does not matter that you actually entered at the exact starting point. It never happens. Or you exit at the exact finale point. The journey will leave a lot of ability. You may not make 6x return, you may make 5.7x times returns. It's still going to be colossal. So you have to study that, and I feel that there is going to be opportunity in the market. Like many people, for example, including the people that you are citing today, I'm talking about the well-established fund managers. How bullish have they been on PSU, on private banks? Not a single fund manager that I heard is negative on private banks. So are you telling me, and now all those private banks are going through huge selling of FIIs? Yet one of them, which was actually underperforming, has hit a 52-week high. Second one, a man I really respect, Mr. Uday Kotak, for so many years he's saying I get sleepless nights thinking what is happening with banking. Now he's not going to say that I get sleepless nights and I'll do nothing about it. There must be some plan that they may be working upon. Everybody wrote of Paytm. I'm just giving you an example. At a CII meeting in Lucknow, I don't know if any one of my friends from Lucknow is here. Ayush Mittal had hosted an event. I actually went and said it will be the script of the year. And look what has happened to Paytm now. And now you will, at 900 rupees, you will want to buy it, but you didn't want to buy it at 300 rupees. So what I'm going to say is that look at opportunities that arise from your understanding of companies. Right? If you are in doubt, go to people. I do not understand chemicals the way, for example, some of my friends here understand. I read what they write. I read what Sejal Bhai writes. I read what Jitin Bhai writes. Jitin Bhai writes on metals. He makes presentations. He's talking. I don't own HIL. I'm giving an example. Jitin Bhai has made a presentation on HIL. Why shouldn't I read his presentation? Maybe I don't know. Maybe he's got some points there. If I get carried away by just looking at all the funds and say but they have sold HIL, so why should I buy it? But he has some points, no? That's why he's making a presentation. Whether I agree or suppose I say I don't agree with it. Now the question is, I don't agree because I don't understand, or I don't agree for ego. If I don't agree for ego, I'm foolish. If I don't agree because I don't understand, I should ask him, or I should look for other people, or I should look at an opportunity to meet him, or I should look at his rationale and see is it playing out. And if in doubt, I will say, okay, I will not put in 100% of my money in a stock today. As an example, I'm not talking about HIL, I'm not talking about chemical, I'm just saying generally. I'll buy a little bit. And if my conviction keep growing up, then this is what I said. There is no start point and end point. The journey is usually going to be enough for you to have endless opportunities to ride. As your profits come and therefore your margin of safety in the portfolio goes up, you build up positions. And by the way, a man I really respected, and I'm sad that he's not alive today, Mr. Jhunjhunwala did exactly that. He used to build his positions on the fundamental side as his conviction grew. And then this entire thing about position sizing comes in. And when it's going wrong, you do the same thing. You don't know it's going to be fully wrong, so you don't eliminate everything on one day. You eliminate it in phases, because sometimes the curve is very sharp. अभी पता है, half the discussions only happen on whether the market will be in U-turn mode, V-turn mode, this mode, L mode, M mode. क्या बातें कर रहे हैं हम? किसको पता है ये? Are you telling me that the DIAs of our country, which have had an unproven track record, do not know about the market when they're pumping in unprecedented amount of money to absorb the FII buying? Are you telling me the same guys you are quoting, Kenneth, whether it is Naren, whether it is Samir Oda or XYZ, are you telling me they don't know? But every single day they come and buy. Let's see. लेट्स पार्टिसिपेट. डोंट बी इन एन ऑल और नथिंग. आपको अगर नहीं करना, आपको सेफ्टी नहीं लग रही मार्केट में, आप 20% कैश पे बैठ जाओ, कोई बात नहीं. और जैसे सबकी सेफ्टी आएगी, डिप्लॉय करोगे, तो आपको ये नहीं अपने आप को देना कि मुझे 100 मार्क्स थे तो मुझे 100 के 100 ही लेने थे. ऐसा नहीं होता. सो यू विल डू वेल बाय जस्ट बीइंग अ लिटिल बिट डिसिप्लिन. प्ले द डिसिप्लिन गेम. And I'm telling you, most of the changes in the market will be by factors that we cannot anticipate. If tonight they announce a ceasefire, you forget about the GDP data and see what happens to Nifty on Monday. If tonight they announce some problem because of some problem in the world, look what will happen to the market. We don't know. अभी भी मैं एक बात बता दूं, ये डिस्कशन जो चल रही, उस दिन क्या हुआ था, भुज निफ्टी का सारा ट्विटर ने भुजिया बना दी. What happened to that Bhuj Nifty threw 1,000 points up because Maharashtra election result has come. Agle din the market opened some 200 BSC points. It was just a normal day. And even now, I was talking to some of the economists. They said, are you telling me that the GDP data is so startling that it was not visible in all the corporate results that were bad? So the results were bad. RBI governor, who's an extremely competent man, has been talking about slowdown, but you thought that no, the number has to be exceptionally high. How? So market will discount and move on, even if it doesn't move on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So what's the big deal? If you get an opportunity within that, आपको कोई स्क्रिप्ट अच्छा लगता है. अब मैं आपको एग्जांपल देता हूं. मैं कंज्यूमर कंपनीज इफ आई डोंट ओन, I totally agree with Sejal. I have a wish list of some of those companies that I want to own. मेरे प्राइसेस पे तो आ जाएं. आएंगे, मैं उसी दिन खरीदूंगा. फिर मैं ये सारा भूल जाऊंगा कि मैंने उनके बारे में अच्छा बोला था, बुरा बोला था. मैं आपको एक बात बता दूं, इवन इन एशियन पेंट एट 2,000 rupees I will buy. Bring it to 2,000 first.
Right, sir. Tanmay, over to you.
आई थिंक एक क्वेश्चन जो मुझे अभी डीएम्स में 3-4 लोगों ने पूछा, एल प्रेजेंट इट अक्रॉस, एंड आई थिंक वी हैव ख्याति आल्सो हु हैड पॉइंट टू मेक. सो the question was, we see so many big investors sitting on cash at this very moment in the market. They say that we don't find any value buys, or the stocks are not very cheap. So what should be
No, Dr. Tanmay, let
yeah
me clarify this.
yeah
27 fund managers are in my book. They are not sitting on any cash.
Yeah. So the point was, I'm just putting out the question that I have received on DM. So the point that they have been asking is, key, what should be the approach as a retail investor? Key, should we sit patiently and hunt for opportunities right now? Should we sit on some cash, do some profit booking, or should we just continue with the mutual funds and see whatever opportunities come in? If there is something coming in the circle of competence, buy it, or just keep enjoying the
No,
market.
so when you are aware of the fact that we have a battery of mutual fund, battery of PMSs that do well, what is wrong? Those people who are running it for with great credibility, let them run it now. They are sensible enough to know what they want to sell and what they want to buy. If you don't have the capability to know whether you should be in cash or not, why are you forcing the decision on yourself? You give it the money to competent people ना. All these guys are competent enough. मैं तो नाम भी नहीं बोल रहा था. कंट्री में 25 ऐसे लोग होंगे, आप उनमें से किसी को भी आपको एक नहीं समझ आ रहा, 3 को दे दो, 4 को दे दो.
Sajal sir, your take on this?
नहीं, 100%. I agree. Couldn't add more.
I think perfect. Uh,
Right.
yeah.
Tanmay, you were saying something. Please
Yeah, I
go
just said
ahead.
that there are few speaker requests. If Safir sir and Sajal sir agrees, then we can take maybe 2 or 3 questions, and then we can wrap before giving it over to Khyati. Yeah.
हाँ, keep your question short थोड़ा सा, क्योंकि जितने ज्यादा लोगों को चांस मिलेगा अच्छा रहेगा. छोटा क्वेश्चन
Yeah,
पूछिए.
one question per person. Yeah, Sejal, please.
Right. Let me add.
Talked a lot about the entry, how to make the entry, but I want to know how you guys plan the exit from the stocks.
हाँ, तो you exit in phases. आपको कोई ये आके नहीं बोलेगा कि आज आपको एग्जिट करना है, कल से ये स्टॉक गिरने वाला है. सो आरवीएनएल से लेकर और कोचीन शिपयार्ड से लेकर सब में, जब आप उसके पिछले 5-10 साल का मीन से देखो कितना स्टैंडर्ड डिविएशन ऊपर और आपने कहाँ लिया. आइडियली आपको मीन से नीचे लेना था, आपने मीन से नीचे लिया, आप स्मार्ट एंट्री आपने ले ली. अब वो चलना शुरू हुआ. पहले चीजें जो चीप होती हैं, चीप से वो फेयरली वैल्यूड होती हैं, उसके बाद एक्सपेंसिव होती हैं. एक्सपेंसिव होने पे नहीं गिरती हैं वो. एक्सपेंसिव होने के बाद वो थोड़ा और एक्सपेंसिव होंगी. वहां पे आपको थोड़ा सा ट्रिम करना है. फिर थोड़ा जब वो एक्सपेंसिव हो चुकी है, उसके बाद उसका यूफोरिया बजेगा, उसका गाना बजेगा, उसमें आईपीओ आएंगे उस सेक्टर में. सो केमिकल 2021 में सारे आईपीओ आने लगे थे. उस समय आपको 80% इफ नॉट 100% केमिकल सेक्टर से आउट होना था, क्योंकि आईपीओ आ रहे हैं झमाझम, एक के बाद एक लाइन लगा के 20 टाइम सेल्स, 50 टाइम सेल्स. मतलब बिल्कुल जैसे कहते हैं ना कि बह रही है गंगा पैसे की. वो क्लियर इंडिकेशन है कि आपको रहना ही नहीं है उस सेक्टर में, भागो. तो दैट इज हाउ यू एग्जिट इन फेजेस. यू बाय इन ट्रांचेस, यू आल्सो एग्जिट इन ट्रांचेस. और मैकेनिकली एग्जिट करना है आपको. इमोशंस गए तेल लेने. आप हर मंडे को आए 10 बजे, आपने 5% बेचा. फिर नेक्स्ट वीक मंडे को 10:10 पे 5% बेचा. प्योर मैकेनिकल. भाव ऊपर जा रहा है डजंट मैटर, भाव नीचे जा रहा है डजंट मैटर, क्योंकि आपके पास इतना बड़ा मार्जिन ऑफ सेफ्टी होगा. आपने कोई स्टॉक 100 रुपए का लिया है, वो अभी 3000 का है. अभी आप ये क्या सोच रहे हो कि वो मैं उसको 3500 पे बेचूं? अरे थोड़ा तो बेचो 3000 पे, ऊपर जाएगा थोड़ा सा और बेचना. आईपीओज इतने सारे आ रहे हैं, आपको क्या लग रहा है इतना इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंकर आपको लूट रहा है दिन दहाड़े, फिर भी आप होल्ड करोगे तो कैसे काम चलेगा? So that is how I would exit.
No, and I would add to that one more thing is that when you exit in phases ना, it comforts your mind because by chance stock बढ़ गया तो आपको बुरा नहीं लगता because you still own others. और गिर गया तो आपको कुछ भी हो आपको अच्छा लगता है because आपको लगता है मैंने बेच दिया. And mind is a bigger game to win in the market than anything else. Your biggest win in the market will come when your mind is positioned to win or lose and to prevent losses.
Yeah, I think market is a truly a FOMO machine. तो आप बेचोगे, उसके बाद ऊपर जाएगा तो भी FOMO होगा. आप नहीं खरीदोगे, उसके बाद you see a rally, then also you'll have a FOMO. So FOMO is never going to leave anyone in the markets. Yeah.
Is off the topic. I think I read yesterday I saw an interview in NDTV Profit which says that the reason for the urban spending decline is somewhere down the line options trading, because everyone is addicted. The young generation completely from 18 years to 40 years, the entire generation is addicted to options, and 90% of them are making losses. The data is there. And because of that, the middle class entire savings have been wiped out. Nobody is talking about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. Is this a reason for urban spending decline, and somewhere down the line the abysmal GDP figures?
Sir, so let me answer this for you. First of
Yeah.
all, I completely request you, beg you, that you should not, you means all the listeners, please don't do F&O. It is not meant for you. It was meant to be an instrument of hedging. Don't get carried away by the ability to predict the market literally by the hour. And even if you do it because it gives you some kick, let it be a very small part of your life. Even if you have to do it, I strongly advocate you not to do it. The second point is that when you are saying that retail has made a lot of loss, which itself is a deterrent for you to do it, don't forget that the same retail has bought the market non-stop from 2020 COVID till now through mutual funds, through PMSs. All the money that comes in every single day when you see DII 9,000 crore, 8,000 crore is retail. So they are also making money there. The question is, maybe those people are a smaller percentage compared to those who are doing intraday trades. Intraday means the calls and the puts that you're calling it. I don't mean script wise that some people like to do trading. They are competent also. I'm talking about that. The slowdown is coming in from the fact that there is a squeeze. There is too much of inflation. There is a impact that is coming in from the fact that people are changing their priorities, which means, as an example, I study sectors also beyond the market for my professional reasons. There is no slowdown when it comes to the travel industry. People are spending, even now. I'll give an example. I was reading the minutes of a telephone of a hotel company that normally does their average room rentals are at 6,500 rupees. That they have launched a hotel now at 35,000 a night, and they're saying there's no room available. So there are people who are spending, and I can tell you this as a very frequent traveler, extremely frequent traveler. It is insane the amount of money people are paying for airline tickets. But they are paying. Sometimes I struggle to even find my connections. The priorities are changing. They are not spending that money on movies, but they're spending it on travel. They're not spending it on something else, they're spending it on food. They're spending it on Coldplay. Today, Ed Sheeran has announced that he's coming back to India to do a concert. I think in a matter of minutes when they open, the tickets will go. Ahmedabad hotels are retailing at 30,000 rupees a night for the night that Coldplay is playing. Just see it as a priority shift. Now, do you have the capability to play that as a theme? If you do, well and good. If you don't, it will come back. Consumption cannot, I agree with Sejal, by some of the consumption that is being written off will actually bounce back. Wait for it. That's what patience and temperament is about. Markets are not about rewards the same day.
Ask you, like, what points did you note? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sajal,
Yes,
wait,
yes,
Abhi.
yes, yes. I want to ask you, like, what points did you find in Paytm? Like, it was in, it was in loss. Like,
Anurag?
what points? Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, yes, yes. Am I audible?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. My question is with Safir sir. Sir, I want to know your views. Like, what what main points did you find in Paytm? Like,
See,
that's the
sir,
question.
the main point is, remember one thing, that points that you find in a
Yes.
company can change as there are variables. For example, a price of a company, earning of a company, the market euphoria, the sector discovery, they can all change your
Mm-hmm.
views. So when I spoke about this company, which was in 2024, in a visit in Lucknow,
Yes.
actually my talk was not on investing. They insisted that I should give them my best idea. And I said that it is my only idea that day. That day,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean that I cannot have an idea after 1 week or things, but that day it was my only idea. The point was that with all the bashing that was in place, the guy was actually talking about there was nothing wrong with technology. correct? Except for ownership by China and other things. There was nothing wrong with technology. Even today, if you go and do a payment, it will happen in a matter of few seconds. The only question
Yes,
was
yes,
of
yes.
changing what was called as an anchor effect. The anchor, whether it was to change from China into a bank. And this
Yes, yes, yes.
the company had spoken, the promoter of the company had specifically spoken about the fact that he's become conscious about profitable profitable growth. Now,
Hmm.
remember that technology is very heavily stacked in terms of expenditure because it is not easy to develop technology. That entire expenditure, or
Yes,
what you
yes.
call as IT infra, had already been incurred. Same story with Zomato.
Correct.
And
Yes.
then the returns become incremental because then you're only doing maintenance IT.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I felt,
Even management is important, right?
yeah, well, to me it is important, but there are other speakers who said that
Yeah.
it is not, and that is a view that everybody can have because again it depends upon what company. See, in some companies, I'm not saying
Hmm.
necessarily in Paytm, management may not be important. In some, it may be very important because in some you may be
Yes, yes, yes.
benefiting out of, for example, suppose you're benefiting out of some commodity run, then the prices, and you have a huge capacity, then you'll be able to sell it at a premium. Like in a power company,
Yes,
it may
yes.
not necessarily matter as an example, because if there is a unit rate and there's a capacity and you have the ability to cater to it, you'll get your price. If the rate crashes, you'll suffer.
Correct, sir. Yes.
So that was my rationale at that point of time. And देखो एक बात, I'll tell you one thing more. This is a sad part of life that success gets a lot of attention, but
Correct, sir. Even the example of Honasa, like Mama Earth.
failure doesn't. Now
Anurag,
failure should also
I'll
get attention.
Okay. Yes,
Anurag,
yes,
I'll
yes,
interrupt
yes.
you here. We'll try not asking stock specific advice, right? Because that is barred by the
Yes,
regulator. That
yes,
is
ma'am.
one. Also, let's not create trouble for other people as well.
Correct,
So,
ma'am. Yes, yes.
yeah. So, if you want to discuss it, might as well discuss it in DMs with a certain speaker, but not on a space, right? And just a disclaimer for
Correct,
all the
ma'am.
listeners that, जो भी space में discuss हो रहा है, any stock A, B, C, just because somebody has invested in it doesn't mean you have to invest in it, because your risk temperament might be different and also the reasons are different, right? Like
No,
Safir can
I mean
invest in, no,
my
Anurag,
views are on modern age
wait.
companies.
No,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
again, no, don't, right? As I said, it's an educational space. Let's not get into stocks, right? For stock, you
Correct.
can
Yes.
host a space and invite whoever you want. We will not be discussing stocks in this space. I'm so sorry to interrupt while you asked the question and also Safir was trying to answer. It's just that it's not technically allowed by the regulator, so why even risk it in the first place? That's one. Also, जो
That's
स्टॉक
correct.
साफिर ले रहे होंगे वो मैं नहीं ले सकती हूँ बिकॉज उनका रिस्क कैपेसिटी बहुत डिफरेंट है मुझसे.
हाँ, वो आप नहीं ले
Correct?
सकते. मैं
हाँ,
बताऊंगा
नहीं
भी
ले
नहीं आपको,
सकते.
बताऊंगा भी नहीं मैं आपको.
हाँ, नहीं बताने भी नहीं
Perfect,
चाहिए. मैं अपने
perfect,
म्यूचुअल फंड्स
perfect,
में
ma'am.
खुश हूँ. बट राइट, सो दैट्स माय ओनली रिक्वेस्ट. एंड मेरे जितने भी लिसनर्स हैं जो भी क्वेश्चंस पूछ रहे हैं, अगर आपके साइक्लिकल
बट
इन्वेस्टिंग,
आप जो स्टॉक ले रहे हो आप बता सकते हो.
ठीक है, मैं आपको बता दूंगी. सो मेरे जितने भी लिसनर्स हैं, अगर आपका कोई भी क्वेश्चन साफिर एंड सजल से ओवरऑल साइक्लिकल इन्वेस्टिंग के बारे में है या थोड़े जेनेरिक क्वेश्चंस हैं जहाँ पे एक स्टॉक का नाम ना है, फील फ्री टू आस्क. अदरवाइज आप पूछोगे भी तो मैं आपको पूछने नहीं दूंगी.
But
राइट?
his question was not wrong. He's
Agreed, ma'am.
asking you. His
Yeah, yeah,
question
yeah.
was that you are personally invested. Why did you invest? His
राइट.
question is not that should I buy it today.
Right, but the only thing is we wanted to be a bit safe, but sure, if you want to
Yeah,
answer, go ahead.
just to cater to the wider audience so that everyone is
Right,
getting
because
benefited. Yeah.
people are impressionable. They'll be like, साफिर ने लिया, मैं भी लूंगा.
I think
वो क्या मालूम साफिर ने बेच दिया.
we'll drop the discussion here. We'll have two quick questions. I think we have Dharmaram sir. We can give him a chance to ask the question, sir.
Hi, Sejal. Hi, Tanmay. Nice to see you
Hi, sir.
guys. I mean, it's nice discussion actually. And I have a simple question, which is again a very generic. Once you guys see would gonna work for last 3 to 4 years, a bit of discussion was made by Dr. I think Miss Khayati there. She said the themes would which will empower women would gonna work. But specifically, like in theme, you can be a bit specific and tell me which theme would be useful to invest into. That is it. I can. Thank you.
I think Sajal Sir gave his remarks on this. He said chemicals, agrochemicals specifically. You can, Safir sir, you want to add to the sectors that you
No,
are looking?
if I start giving details of sectors, then how is it different from naming companies?
Yeah. So if anything you find attractive, you want to skip the
I
question, you can skip.
personally, I personally like the interview of Mr. Ramesh Damani, another person that I respect a lot, and Mr. Ramesh Damani's interview is worth seeing for the simple reason that he elaborates on why there is still a huge misconception relating to PSUs. And I find that he's a very sensible and an extremely mature person who's gone through too many cycles. He's literally like a guru of many of us. I just like to hear some of, and similarly, for example, I saw a very nice YouTube video, I think last week, of Mr. Samir Arora and why he's buying new age companies. So I like to hear their views and then frame my thought. And I may not be able to buy all of them. First, I need money for that. Secondly, I need to sell something which I may or may not be good at doing. But I like the logic of some of these things. And if you do own some of them, because it's not possible that you will have none of them. I mean, I'm talking about me. At least I will have some PSU or I'll have some new age company. Then it gives me a better sense of conviction to study and know what to study rather than to just read headlines and say that, they have said it, so I'm going to buy it, but I don't understand what they're doing. There are other people as well. I mean, I'll give you an example that even a fund that I have personally not been very fond of, only for ideology, not thinking, which is Marcellus, is now talking about shifting their entire investment thesis. They're moving out into mid caps and small caps, and every month they end up buying 10 odd stocks. So I'm only fixated by why are they doing this? Are they right now, or is it again a trap? Now, I may not end up owning the same stock because I don't believe in coat tailing. Coat tailing is an extremely difficult exercise. You don't know a person's net worth. You don't know his change. He will not knock at your door to tell you what he's doing every day. But there is a huge science of understanding the logic. Like every day, I'm not joking. I'm seeing it seriously. Every day I read, for example, Sejal Bhai's tweets to understand what is it that I don't know. And there is a lot I don't know. Then I try. And if I succeed in even knowing a little bit, it's enough for me to make returns.
Right. Right. I think, yeah. I think with the PSU, I think world is divided. I think there are certain people which would say PSU is a good thing, and certain people will say PSU would be like for some time you can earn money sometime, and that it is not a great thing for long term. So that is what I gathered out of listening few YouTubers. Not very sure whether I grasp perfectly all right or not. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you,
Uh,
sir.
Can I go
right.
next?
We have a question. Before we go to Amit, there's a question from someone called Rumi. Rumi is asking that how do global, I think this question might be targeted towards Sajal, but also Safir can answer it. How do global economic cycles and trends affect your investment decisions in the UK market? Please ask this. And also,
In the
what are
UK market
sectors that,
or Indian market?
yeah, UK, the guy is asking about UK, hence I
We no,
pointed towards.
we have to answer. I don't invest in UK market.
Yeah, so that's one thing that he's asking.
Okay.
I think then it's for Sajal specifically. And which specific sectors do you think are more resilient during economic downturns and why? As a doctor living in England, that's what he's asking.
Before Sejal Bhai answers this, I just want to tell you something that I've had two trips to Europe in the last 1 month, and again I'm off in a day. But I must tell you that I was having a fascinating discussion with a cab driver, and he was not a Uber driver, but he was a corporate cab driver. And I told him that looking at the state of recession in United Kingdom, it may be worthwhile to start exploring stocks. So I'm doing homework on it because there is a change of government there. There are a lot of policy changes that may come, and it is not as if United Kingdom will not emerge out of the sort of slowdown that they're in. Now, for example, if I'm able to find a hotel there or I'm able to find a liquor company there that is worth my time, then I will consider going through the LRS route or through a fund that invests there and invest. But if I can't find it, no, fine. I will not invest then.
No, I think just to summarize again, I generally don't look at a specific market because I don't invest in market. I don't invest in sectors. I look at in specific stories. So if a company is listed in UK, if it's a decent sized company, most probably it will be a global company. So the cash flows will be coming not just from UK. A majority of the cash flows will be outside UK. So I'll give you another company example: Novo Nordisk, Danish company, right? And majority of the cash flow, 99% of cash flows are outside the home market. So, and again, so you need to be aware of the currency fluctuations, etc., etc. So if your home market currency is getting weaker, your translation EPS will be higher. So you have to look at those factors. Again, it's the randomness is high. If you are a doctor, if you have got a day job, probably go into something like Fundsmith, right? That's a good or something like that, give you a decent compounding. So if UK inflation on average is about 2-3%, if a fund is giving you double digit capital compounding, that's good enough. Why you need to go invest your time and energy into finding specific stocks, because that's not your core competence, right? And again, to answer your specific questions, if a economy is doing bad, the recession, etc., what sector? So typically, take an example. If you are working individual, what will happen if your salary is cut by half all of a sudden? What are those expenses that you would still have to, or what are those things that you would still have to consume, even if so you're earning, let's say 100,000, and if you settle for a low paying job, like let's say 50,000 GBP, what you would not stop consuming? Essential consumption, right? So essential consumption is things like healthcare is an essential consumption, essential food. You'll probably cut down on your travel and leisure, but you will not cut down on your chronic medicines, those kind of pockets, as an example. So,
Can I
if
interject if
economy
you
is
don't
doing
mind?
poorly, places like, Burger King and Domino's will probably, so people start trading down. So, people will visit more into those restaurants or shops where there is value for money. So those kind of consumptions typically do better in a recession. But nothing is recession proof to an extent. But yeah, maybe chronic medicine, because people even take debt to go for healthcare. And Europe by large is kind of converting into a hospital slowly. And generally speaking, country by country, the economics may be different. Germany may be older than UK, but in general, Europe is kind of converting into a hospital. Japan already is hospital. There is degrowth of population happening in China. So think, what kind of consumption. So the consumption pattern itself would change dramatically over the next 5-10 years on a global level. And India won't be left behind. I keep saying that, the number of people who are crossing the age of 55 in India is dramatically increasing. It's the fastest growing cohort, like it or not. So again, within a young country, your 55 plus is the fastest growing age group. So think from a healthcare perspective. That would be my 2 cents.
Right. Thanks for that, Sajal. Rumi, I hope Sajal has answered your question. And if you have any further questions, can I request you to DM them to Sajal instead? Would that be okay?
And I request Sajal Bhai
Sure,
to
no
send a
problem.
bill also for this.
Bill,
Arey,
Bill for what?
specialized
I didn't
education
catch
is the
that.
most expensive commodity in the world, most expensive service in the world. Sorry, not even commodity.
So Safir sir, Sajal sir has a different take to this. He always say that if I am able to help anybody in any way, it would be better for that person to
I was
give some
appointed as
part of
lawyer
their
1 minute back. We've changed the terms.
noted, sir.
So
Okay.
before,
Okay, if there are no further questions, maybe we can have
Yeah,
a
yeah, please,
closing
please, please.
comments
I was
from,
about to,
yeah,
I
Safir
was
Bhai
about to say
first,
that.
please.
Let's
Yeah,
have some closing remarks, and then it
yeah,
has
yeah,
been a long session. Safi sir, closing
yeah.
remarks, please.
Yeah, मैंने बहुत बोल लिया. I think let some of the others talk because I think I'm
Okay.
exhausted by
Sajal
the.
sir, Sajal sir, closing remarks.
हाँ नहीं I can maybe quickly summarize the key takeaways maybe from my perspective. So focus more on the business cycle, much more than the market cycle. Stock is specific business cycle, that is, not the market cycle. Look at how the depreciation has performed over the last 3-4 years. If the depreciation has gone up, and if the EBITDA has gone down, and if the stock has been sideways or down, those are the three parameters, you'd probably find happy hunting ground. Buy in phases, reduce exposure in phases as well. And every stock will go through a sort of a cycle. So it typically will start with a dirt cheap, then becoming cheap, then good value becoming decent value, then decent value becoming richly valued. Richly valued will then become probably expensive. Watch my word here, probably. Then probably expensive will become definitely expensive. Definitely expensive, as in most market participants will say that's expensive. So probably something like, maybe there are certain examples in CDMO space. 20 times price to sales, 25 times price to sales, adjusted for special situation transaction. I will not name that company, but there is a merger about to happen in one of the CDMO companies, where if you look at the standalone company, it will be probably be 30-35 times price to sales, and the console basis would be 23-24 times price to sales as on today. And that's definitely expensive. That's not probably expensive. That's definitely expensive. That doesn't mean that the stock will crash tomorrow. It may remain definitely expensive, and the earnings may catch up and the stock may survive, but nevertheless the stock will underperform relative to some of the higher quality, better stocks in the same pocket. And then ultimately things will become super expensive and the IPOs will start coming in. So we saw what happened in the 2021 chemical cycle. That probably is the time that you just don't have to listen to anyone, including yours truly. No television, nothing. Just completely try and exit that sector, unless your horizon is 10 years. So at the top of the cycle in 2021, there was a CDMO company that was quoting at a decent valuation. I wouldn't say it was super expensive. It was somewhere around $700. I did not sell a single share, and the stock crashed about 60-65% from those levels. And at that point in time, I kind of doubled my exposure. Because my horizon, even in 2021, was not 1 year, 2 year, 3 year. My horizon, even at that point in time, was 10 year, and I was convinced that if I stick with this business for next 10 years, I will make a very decent, healthy CAGR, even from those levels, the dizzy heights of 2021. Newland is another example. It's not a recommendation, and I've been if you go through my Twitter feeds, I keep criticizing that, people are very bullish on Newland today, and they were not in 2022, where valuation was a fraction. The stock is 16x since. But I did not sell anything at the top of the cycle in 2021 because, again, my horizon was 10 year. And luckily, the stock crashed massively, and I could just jump in and add more to because it was just like a feast for me. So again, know yourself, what kind of person you are, what are your cash flow situation. How do you react when your stocks start crashing? How do you react, when things don't work out within your time frame? Every individual is different. It's like precision medicine. मैं जो आपको इंजेक्शन दूंगा, मेरे लिए जो ठीक होगा वो आपके लिए नहीं होगा, because our genomes are different. And that's how investing is. There is no one route to nirvana. There are a million ways to make money in the market. Just follow the path that is known to you. आपको पता है इस रास्ते पे potholes नहीं है, आप उसी रास्ते से जाओगे ना. So the pathway that has worked for you in the past will probably be the pathway that will work for you in the future as well. And again, last but not the least, whatever stocks we may have mentioned, any one of us during that spaces, I'll just extend what Sejal mentioned. None of this is an investment advice. Assume that we are in a pump and dump mode, and we are trying to chipkao mal to you, and then
या ये
access.
पंप
Thank
वर्ड
you.
मत बोला करो, because that's one of the sectors I like. फिर मेरे को बड़ा वरी हो जाता है that you're hinting at some of my stocks. Dump is okay. Dump.
हाँ
Thank you so much, Safir sir and Sajal sir and others speakers who joined us and left for some reasons and they have to leave early. So thank you so much for taking out time. It's always a pleasure listening to you guys. Thank you.